President Zelenskyy of Ukraine. And we've been working very hard, very close. So we've actually known each other for a long time. We've been dealing with each other for a long time and very well. We had a little negotiation spat, but that worked out great. I think for both countries, I think for the world, actually, beyond both countries. And we have something that is a very fair deal. And we look forward to getting in and digging and working and getting some of the rare earth. But it means we're going to be inside, and it's a big commitment from the United States, and we appreciate working with you very much. And we will continue to do that. We have had some very good discussions with Russia. I spoke with President Putin, and we're going to try and bring this to a close. It's something that you want and that he wants. We have to negotiate a deal, but we've started the confines of a deal, and I think something can happen. The big thing is the number of soldiers, mostly at this point, but soldiers being killed. You're losing thousands of soldiers. So on both sides, we're losing a lot of soldiers, and we want to see it stop. And we want to see the money get put to different kinds of use, like rebuilding. And we're going to be working very hard. But we've had a lot of very good conversations. I will say until we came along, the Biden administration didn't speak to Russia whatsoever. They didn't speak to anybody. They just allowed this to continue. And I will say that, I'll say in front of you, you've heard me say it 1,000 times, if I were president, this war would have never happened. We would have had a deal negotiated for you without having to go through what you've gone through. But your soldiers have been unbelievably brave. We've given them great equipment, but somebody has to use the equipment. They've been unbelievably brave. And we give them great credit. This was supposed to be over very quickly, and here we are 3 years later. So I give tremendous credit to your generals and your soldiers and yourself in the sense that it's been very hard fighting, very tough fighting. They're great fighters, and you have to be very proud of them from that standpoint. But now we want to get it over with. It's enough, right? We want to get it over with. So. It's an honor to have you here. Thank you very much for coming. We're going to sign the agreement at the conference in the East Room in a little while, right after lunch. And we'll be having lunch together. We're also discussing some other things. And we appreciate everybody being here. It's somewhat of an exciting moment, but the really exciting moment is when they stop the shooting and we end up with a deal. And I think we're fairly close to getting that. And an honor to have you. And please, I'd like to say something.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you for invitation. And really, I hope that this first document, will be a first step to real security guarantees for Ukraine, our people, our children. I really count on it. And of course, we count that America will not stop support. Really, for us, it's very important to support and to continue it. I want to discuss it with details further during our conversation, and of course, the infrastructure or security guarantees. Because for today, I understand what Europe is ready to do. And of course, I want to discuss with you what United States will be ready to do. And I really count on your strong position to stop Putin. And you said that enough with the war. I think that is very important, Ben, to say these words to Putin at the very beginning of war, because he is a killer and terrorist. But I hope that together we can stop him. But for us, it's very important to save our country, our values, our freedom and democracy, and of course, no compromises with the killer about our territories, but it will be later. And of course, what I wanted, we spoke about it by phone with you about the drones production. We have very good drones production. I think the best one in the world for today because of the war. Yes, and of course, we need very much the air defense. You have the best air defense in the world, and really you helped us under attacks of Russians. And I want to speak how we can exchange the licenses. We're open to share the licenses of all our drones with you, of course, with the United States. And we need licenses for quick production of air defense. Even after the war, we need our nation to be calm, that we are secure. So that's why we need this air shield. And of course, about this I want to speak about the contingents. I think that France and UK already spoke to you, and we know that Europe is ready, but without the United States, they will not be ready to be as strong as we need. And the last point, last not least, about exchange, about our people and children. And you know that this crazy Russian, that they stolen 20,000 of children, Ukrainian children. They changed their names, they changed their families, relatives, and now they're in Russia. We want to bring them back, and really, it's a big dream, task, and goal for me, and our warriors. By the way, Mr. President, we exchanged, released more than 4,000 warriors from Russian prison, but there are thousands more in the prison. I wanted to share with you some images. How it's just can I now?
Yeah,
Have I?
please.
Some minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Just you to understand in what circumstances, in what situation they are, and what the attitude of Russia to our prisons. That guys, just you before and after. And you see before and after, just you to understand. Now thousands of such guys, ladies and men, there, and that, so they don't eat, they beat them, and they do a lot of bad things. So out of, even during the war, there are rules. Everybody knows there are rules during the war. So these guys, they don't have any rules. You see that 50, 60 kilograms left, and a lot of such things. And I didn't want to show you what the changes with images of children, because I will share with you. And I mean, it's looking tragic.
Yeah, that's tough stuff.
I wanted very much to give you, and you see.
Yeah.
This is pastor, by the way. They stolen pastors because it's not Russian church. They stolen pastors and moved pastors to the prison. We, at the end of last year, we brought 3 pastors, and we could exchange them. And this is pastor, you see.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. So I mean, this I wanted to show you, and this. So thank you very much.
We want to get that ended, right?
Yeah. Of course, we
And I
want.
think we will. And
We have to, of course.
do you have any questions, please?
Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. With the, how much money is the U.S. going to put into the fund that is being created today, and how does this provide long-term security for Ukraine?
Well, we don't know exactly how much, because we're going to be putting some money in a fund that we're going to get from the raw earth that we're going to be taking and sharing in terms of revenue. So it's going to be a lot of money will be made from the sale and from the use of raw earth. And as you know, our country doesn't have much raw earth. We have a lot of oil and gas, but we don't have a lot of the raw earth. And what we do have is protected by the environmentalists, but that can be unprotected, but still it's not very much. They have among the best in the world in terms of raw earth. So we're going to be using it for all of the things we do, including AI and including weapons and the military, and it's really going to very much satisfy our needs. So it's something that just worked out really well. We have a lot of oil and we have a lot of gas, but we don't have raw earth. So this has just about every component of the raw earth that we need for computers, for all of the things we do. This puts us in great shape.
And long-term security for Ukraine. How does this provide?
I think they're going to have great luck. I think once we make the agreement, that's going to be 95% of it. They're not going to go back to fighting. I've spoken with President Putin, and I feel very strong. I've known him for a long time, and I feel very strongly that they're very serious about it, and we'll make a deal. And when the deal is made, I don't think we talk about security. Everyone's talking about the other day. All they talked about was security. I said, let me make the deal first. I have to make the deal first. I don't worry about security right now. We have to have a deal, because right now, last week, 2,000 soldiers died on both sides. 2,000, and they're losing 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 a week. So as we sit here and we talk, people are getting shot and dying on the battlefield. And, they're not American soldiers, but they're Russian soldiers and they're Ukrainian soldiers, and we want to be able to stop it. And we want to be able also to spend money on other things. We don't want to, this is a tremendous amount of money. And what the Biden administration did was terrible. They were giving money, but he had no security on the money. Europe, as you know, gave much less money, but they had security. It was in the form of a loan. They get their money back, and we didn't. And now at least we're protected because the American taxpayer has to be protected too. But this is an incredible agreement for Ukraine because we have a big investment in their country now. And what they have, very few people have. And we're able to really go forward with very, very high-tech things and many other things, including weaponry that we're going to use in many locations, but that we need for our country.
Mr. President.
This allows us to do that.
Will you continue?
I'm sorry.
Sending military aid.
Yes, go ahead, please.
If I can just, yes. In the document, there is one of the very important points. If we speak about business and investment, we never had LNG terminals in Ukraine. This document will open. I mean, the next document, but anyway, here we see in the framework, we see a really good will for this. LNG terminals for us is very important, and I think for security of European continent. We have the biggest storage, gas storage. We have the biggest in Europe. Yes, and we can use it. Use it for LNG, use it for LNG, and we will do it. And really, we can help Europe because Europe really helped. President Trump said that they made less support, but they are our friends and they are our very supportive partners. They really gave a lot, Mr. President. They did.
They gave a lot, but they gave much less.
No.
Much less.
No. No.
No, not you.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. President Trump, you have repeatedly called the deal with Ukraine as a historical one. And as a president of the United States, you make historical decisions in other issues which affect America and other world. So what place in the world history do you want to take? And do you associate yourself with any famous historical figures?
Yeah, I'd say George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. I would say I'm far superior to George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. Now, you know I'm only kidding, right? Because when I say that, the fake news is going to go wild. They're going to say he considers himself to be better than Washington. But you never know. You never know. I don't compare myself to anybody. I'm here to do a job. We've had a great 35 days or whatever it might be, a month, a little more than a month. We've accomplished tremendous amounts. Not only this would be a very great achievement if we could get the war stopped and get them back to normalization. I think that's going to happen. We've had very good talks on both sides, as you know. I think we've done a very good job, just generally. If you look at all of the things we've done in 30 days, they're saying there's never been a opening for a president. The first month, there's never been a first month like we've had. And this is one of the very important things. This, to me, is one of the most important things because we have tremendous death taking place as we speak. And I don't want to have that. Think of the parents, whether they're in Russia or Ukraine, think of the parents of all these people being killed needlessly.
They came to our territory.
Should have never started. If I were president, this would have never started.
Mr. President, where and how do you envision, Mr. President, will you continue sending military aid to Ukraine after the U.S. signs this agreement with Ukraine?
Yeah, we're going to be
Question to
continuing.
President Zelenskyy. Do you feel like the U.S. is on your side, that the President Trump is on your side at this moment?
What do you think?
He wants to know, do you think that, sort of a stupid question. I guess we wouldn't be here if I wasn't.
I think that the United States on our side from the very beginning of occupation, and I think that President Trump on our side, and of course, I'm sure that United States President will not stop support. This is crucial for us. It's important for us. Yes. And Putin, the president speaks about the people and the soldiers which are dying, but they came to our territory, they came to our land. They began this war, and they have to stop. And I think this is the question, with really the most important question. Can President Trump, I hope yes, with some other allies, to stop Putin, withdraw these enemies, our enemy, withdraw these troops from our land? And I think that you asked about the history, I think that if President, or when he will stop Putin, if President Trump will bring peace to our country, I think he will be on this wall. I think.
We've had very, very good talks.
President
Zelenskyy just said that there'll be no compromises with Vladimir Putin. I just wanted to ask both of you. Firstly, are there compromises that you think that President Zelenskyy is going to have to make? And President Zelenskyy, is there anything that you might be thinking that you may be able to offer or bring to the table, for example, elections? Thank you.
I think you're going to have to always make compromises. You can't do any deals without compromises. So certainly he's going to have to make some compromises, but hopefully they won't be as big as some people think you're going to have to make. That's all. That's all we can do. I'm here as an arbitrator, as a mediator to a certain extent between two parties that have been very hostile. To put it mildly, they've been very hostile. There's been a vicious war. There's been a vicious war. You know, it's a very level battlefield, and those bullets go out. And as I've said many times, we were talking about it with Pete, many times the only thing stopping those bullets is a human body. And in the case we're talking about, generally young human bodies are stopping a lot of bullets. It's dead level. That's why it's great farmland. It's great land. It's great farmland, but there's very little protection against the bullets that are being, and other things that are being shot. So all I can do is see if I can get everybody at the table and get an agreement. And I think we're going to end up with an agreement. Otherwise, I wouldn't probably be even here today.
Mr. President, I've got two questions for you. You think ultimately your legacy will be the peacemaker and not the president that led this country into another war and ended foreign wars? And I've got a question.
I hope it will. I mean, I hope I'm going to be remembered as a peacemaker. This would be a great thing if we could do this. I'm doing this to save lives more than anything else. Second is to save a lot of money, but I consider that to be far less important. So I hope I'm going to, thank you, Brian, for that question. It was a nice question. I hope I'll be known and recognized as a peacemaker. This would be a great thing to solve. This is a very dangerous situation. You know, this could lead to a third world war. This was headed in the wrong direction. If this election were lost, if we didn't win this election, and we won it by a lot, that was a mandate. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote by millions and millions of votes. We won everything. The districts, you look at the areas of red, take a look at a map. This was a big mandate. And this was one of the things I said, we're going to get this thing settled. If we didn't win, I think this could have very well ended up in a third world war. And that would not have been a good situation. What was your second question?
My second question for President Zelenskyy. Why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest, why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see people. Do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting the dignity of this office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe one.
Maybe something like this.
Something like yours.
sir.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Maybe something better. I don't know. We will see. Maybe something cheaper. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Trump. Thank you, President Trump. You said yesterday that you.
Are you going to send more arms to Ukraine in case there's no peace?
Yeah, we're going to have arms to Ukraine. Yeah, sure. Hopefully I won't have to send very much, because hopefully we're going to have it finished. We're looking forward to finishing this quickly. We're not looking forward to sending a lot of arms. We're looking forward to getting the war finished so we can do other things. But we very much appreciate the agreement, because we needed what they had, and we're treating, our country is now treated fairly. Biden didn't do that. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. This should have never happened. This should have never started. But sure, the answer is yes, but hopefully we won't have to send much because I'm looking forward to getting it done quickly, very quickly.
Does that mean you'll provide security guarantees, Mr. President?
I don't want to talk about security yet because I want to get the deal done. You fall into the same trap like everybody else. A million times you say it over and over. I want to get the deal done. Security is so easy. That's about 2% of the problem. I'm not worried about security. I'm worried about getting the deal done. The security is the easy part. Security is very nice. Everybody stopped shooting. And now will Europe put people there? I know France is going to. I know the UK is going to. I know other countries are going to, and they happen to be right next door. We haven't committed, but we could conceivably, we have security in a different form. We'll have workers there digging, taking the raw earth so that we can create a lot of great product in this country. So in that sense, you have something, but we haven't determined that yet. I will say, in speaking to France and in speaking to, and they were here, as you know, last week and just the other day, they have committed to a lot of security. I don't think you're going to need much security. I think once this deal gets done, it's over. Russia's not going to want to go back, and nobody's going to want to go back. When this deal ends, I really believe this deal is going to be over. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Mr. President, thank you. You had Mr. Macron and Keir Starmer at the White House this past week, both of whom praised your courage and conviction to lead the pathway towards peace.
Yes.
Part of that involved, though, re-engaging Russia in diplomatic relations, something that previous leaders lacked the conviction to do so. What gave you the moral courage and conviction to step forward and lead that?
Well, I love this guy. Who are you with?
One American News, sir.
Well, that's why I like him. One American News does a great job. I like the question. I think it's a very good question. It's a pathway to peace. It's a pathway to getting something solved. And I feel that as the head of this country, I have an obligation to do that. Plus, we're very much involved. We got involved. It's too bad we got involved because there should have been no involvement because there should have been no war. And there shouldn't have been October 7th. That would have never happened. As you know, Iran was broke. They had no money to give to Hezbollah. They had no money to give to Hamas. They were stone cold broke. And then under Biden, they became rich as hell. They went from no money to $300 billion in a period of 4 years. And they gave a lot of that money away. And you see what happened. And that's a real mess also that we hope to be able to solve. But no, I appreciate your question very much. I feel I have an obligation to try and do something to stop the death.
If I can answer, yes, if I can answer,
Please,
sorry,
go ahead.
please.
And I do like your clothing, by the way.
Yeah, really?
Even though I think he's a
Yeah,
great guy,
yeah.
by the way. But I don't know if you two like each other, but you know what? I think he's dressed. I think he's dressed.
I like this guy.
I think he's dressed beautiful.
So I have more serious things than answer on such
Yeah,
question.
sure, that's
I will
okay.
answer on more serious
That's a good
question
statement.
if I can.
Yes.
Yeah, so please, about security guarantees and about just ceasefire. We can't just speak about ceasefire and speak. It will not work. Just ceasefire will never work because I'm like a president. I have this experience, and not only me. Ukraine before my presidency, from the 2014, Putin broken 25 times. 25 times he broken his own signature. 25 times he broken ceasefire.
But he never broke to me. He never broke to me.
No, you were the president.
He
You
never
were the
broke-
president
He
during.
never broke to me.
In 2016, you've been the president, Mr. President. You've been the president, but he had, of course, not with you, but he had during those periods, he had conversations with our side. And we had Normandy format, the France, Germany, Ukraine, and Russia. And he broken 25 times. That's why we will never accept just ceasefire. It will not work without security guarantees. Security guarantees, maybe President is right about this document and other, but this document is not enough. Strong army is enough because his soldiers afraid, Putin's soldiers afraid of our soldiers when we're strong enough. If we are not strong enough, if we are empty, if our storage is empty, we can't defend our land. Today, he knows that we have all the world knows that we have meeting. Yes, why he's using ballistic? Putin today using ballistic on our hospitals, schools, and it says ballistic. So he knows that we are here and that President Trump is really have goodwill to stop this war. And you hear now the president. So why he's using? So he doesn't want to stop. He doesn't want. But I hope that we will do it. Really, we'll do it. Security. When we speak about security guarantees, when the Europeans are ready for contingents, they need USA backstop. If there will not be United States, we will not never have any contingents, strong contingents from the Europeans, because they don't want to divide alliance connection between the United States and the main and strongest ally and Europeans. And this is crucial. This is important. That's what we want to speak about very much. This is very important. And air defense. So air defense, really, we have big deficit with all these systems, and we need to provide this. We need it very much. Otherwise, Putin will never stop and will go further and further. He doesn't want. He hates us. You know, it's not about me. He hates Ukrainians. He thinks that we are not a nation. He thinks, and he shared these thoughts. I think maybe with your team also. I don't know, but with all the Europeans, in media, officially and not, he always said that there is no such country, such nation, such language, and such life like Ukrainian. No, he really doesn't respect all the Ukrainians, and he wants to destroy us. And you are right, Mr. President. That's 2%. This document, maybe other documents, it's a very good start, very good, but it will not enough to stop this person.
Should Russia pay to rebuild Ukraine?
Mr. President, after these
Should Russia pay to rebuild Ukraine?
They have to pay.
This question.
This is the rule. This is rule of the war. This is the rule of the war. During all the centuries, all the history, this is the rule of the war. Who began, those pay.
Do you agree?
This is the rule. Putin began this war. He has to pay all money for innovation. He has to pay. Of course, some Russian assets, what we have in Europe, about 300 billion, we can use them. We can use for innovation and buy military support from the United States also. We can do it, but it's not enough. It's not enough.
Under these circumstances, do you envision a trilateral summit with
Because I want
Putin
to
and
know.
President Zelenskyy?
Wait 1 second.
I asked this question that you didn't like because I wanted to know if you want to position yourself in the middle between Russia and
Yes.
Ukraine or on the Ukraine's.
No, I'm in the middle. I want to solve this thing. I'm for both. I want to get it solved. And it's wonderful to speak badly about somebody else, but I want to get it solved. If we can solve it, great. If we can't solve it, they're going to have to fight it out, and who knows what's going to happen. But I want to see it get solved.
May I follow up? One more question about U.S. troops in Europe. After Russian invasion of Ukraine, your predecessor sent additional troops to Eastern Europe, including Poland, my country.
Yeah.
Are you committed to keeping these troops on the eastern flank of NATO in the future?
I'm very committed to Poland. I think Poland has really stepped up and done a great job for NATO. As you know, they paid more than they had to. They are one of the finest groups of people I've ever known. I'm very committed to Poland.
What about Baltics?
Poland's in a tough neighborhood, you know.
What about the Baltics?
The Baltics, they got a lot of, it's a tough neighborhood too, but we're committed. We're going to be very committed, and we're committed to NATO. But NATO has to step up, and the Europeans have to step up more than they have. And I want to see them equalize because they are in for far less than we're in, and they should be at least equal. You understand that? Why is the United States, we have an ocean in between. Why is the United States in for so much more money and other things as Europe? With that being said, and as you said, they've also been obviously very helpful, but we have put in far more than they have. And I think they should equalize.
Mr. President,
Please, go ahead.
Ask you about the agreement again today. What changed between the first time that Secretary Bessent gave President Zelenskyy the agreement and today for the signing?
We made a deal. So
What was the
I'm just-
deciding factor?
I'm a business person. We made a deal. That's what changed.
Mr. President,
I didn't think we were going to make a deal. And we ended up making the deal. So that changed.
Mr. President, what and how do you envision a trilateral summit with President Zelenskyy and Putin?
I don't know,
under
but
these
well, they
circumstances?
don't like each other. I can tell you that. Okay? They do not like each other. This is not a love match. And it's unfortunate. That's why you're in this situation. The United States should not have allowed this to happen. Okay? The United States, run by a man that didn't know much. I'm going to be very nice. Run by an incompetent person, very incompetent person, should never have allowed this to happen. I've stopped wars. I've stopped many wars. My people will tell you, I stopped wars that nobody ever heard about. I stopped wars before they ever started. You can look at some of, I could give you a lot of nations that would tell you right now they were probably going to war. I could tell you right now there's a nation thinking about going to war on something that nobody in this room has ever even heard about. Two smaller nations, but big, still big. And I think I've stopped it. But this should have never happened.
Mr. President.
Sorry, just a second. About any negotiations. First of all, I want really to tell you, and I think that everybody understands that Ukraine, more than Ukrainians, nobody wants to stop this war. But at the future, any negotiations, it's understandable that two sides of the war, not Russia and the United States, because this is not the war between Russia and the United States. This is war of Russia against Ukraine and Ukrainian people. So these two sides will be at the will be at the negotiation table. Then of course United States, like the strongest partner of the Ukraine, and of course Europe. I think Europe is very important. I want to speak about it with the president. Yes, Europe is very important for us because we really defend Europe for today. All Europeans really recognize that we are defending the line and they have real life and our people are dying. That's why they helped us. And also it's about the NATO. Yes, between, like the president said, you have big, nice ocean. Yes, between us. But if we will not stay, Russia will go further to Baltics and to Poland, by the way. But first to the Baltics. It's understandable for them because they've been in the USSR. You know, they've been one of the republics of the USSR, and Putin wants to bring them back to his empire. It's a fact. And when he will go there, if we will not stay, you will fight. Your American soldiers, it doesn't matter, do you have ocean or not, your soldiers will fight.
Mr. President, would you be willing to visit Ukraine, maybe Kyiv or Odessa, which is going to be a third year of Black Sea?
It was my question.
Sorry.
I don't want to talk about Odessa now. Let's not talk about Odessa. I want to talk about making a deal, getting peace. We don't have to talk about Odessa, but a lot of cities have been destroyed. A lot of cities that are not recognizable. There's not a building standing.
No.
And a lot of things
Mr. President, you have to come and to look. No. We have very good cities. Yes, a lot of things have been destroyed, but mostly cities alive and people work and children go to school. Sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes closer to front line, children have to go to underground schools or online, but we live. Ukraine is fighting and Ukraine lives. This is very important. And maybe it's Putin is sharing this information that he destroyed us. No, he lost 700,000 people, 700,000 soldiers. He lost everything. Yes. So,
Mr. President, more.
Please, go ahead.
When did you last speak with President Putin? And what did he say that?
A couple of days ago.
And what did he tell you that gave you the assurance that he wanted peace?
Well, that's what I do. My whole life is deals. I know pretty good. And I've known him for a long time. I've dealt with him for a long time. He had to suffer through the Russia hoax. You know, Russia was a hoax. It was all Biden. It was nothing to do with him. So he had to suffer through that, and he was able to do that. I think that he wants to make a deal, and he'd like to see it end. That's all I do. That's what I do. My whole life, that's what I do is make deals. And I'm in the middle of a mess because this is a real mess. It's a very dangerous one. If this doesn't get solved now, it's not going to get solved for a long time. So I hope we're going to get it solved. In the back, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Prime Minister Starmer claims repeatedly that his government believes in free speech and was not engaged in censorship. But his country's government arrests people for memes and thought crimes, and even more worrisome is pressuring American companies to censor Americans on his behalf. How can he be a reliable, trustworthy partner when he says things that are demonstrably false on such an important topic?
Well, we actually spoke to him about that yesterday, and we thought they took it very, very much too far. JD was very strong on it. So was I. So was Marco. And we've been speaking to him about it. Marco, would you like to say something about that?
Yeah, we have concerns, obviously, with the conduct of those, particularly as it impacts Americans. And there's real concern that American speech, which is online, could fall into the hands of British or any country's jurisdiction. And so this is a point the Vice President made of Munich, and I think it's a very compelling one, that what unites us with Europe, as much as anything else, is these shared values, and one of them being free speech. And so if Americans are threatened by it, we're going to need to take action in that regard.
Mr. President.
It's actually a very important question.
We spoke about this in detail with the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, and others at lunch yesterday. And I know that Secretary of Commerce Lutnick followed up in private meetings last night. This is really important. We believe Americans have the right to speak their mind, even if we in this room disagree with them. They have the right to speak their mind in the public square, which is often online these days. And we're going to defend that right as it pertains to American companies and American citizens vigorously if we have to. I do think that under the president's leadership, we're going to find common ground with our friends in the UK on this question, but it remains to be seen. The principle that will guide us is we believe in free speech in this country, and we'll fight for it for American citizens.
Mr. President, on the deal, is there any other oil and gas component to the deal? Is it all critical?
A little bit. We'll see.
On LNG?
But we're not really looking for that so much. We got a lot. We have more than anybody in the world by far. So no, we're not talking about it too much, but a little bit. I think it affects also, but for the most part, no.
And sir, is there any agreement from Ukraine to purchase US LNG as part of the deal, or is that on the table at all?
No, we don't need that.
Some of those
Mr. President, I
minerals
just
are in
wanted
the
to ask
east,
you
Mr.
about,
President.
you just mentioned that you'd spoken to Vladimir Putin a couple of days ago. Just to be clear, that's a new call, not the one that you.
I've spoken to him on numerous occasions.
Okay. And how was the latest call? What did you discuss? How did it go?
Are you serious with that question?
I am. I'd love to know.
It went well. I think we're going to have a deal.
On the minerals deal, Mr. President, some of those minerals are in the east of Ukraine, not far from the front lines and in areas that Russia has occupied. Will you direct President Putin to withdraw his forces from those areas if there's U.S. interest?
Well, we'll take a look at the time. We have a lot of area. It's a very big area we're talking about. So we'll take a look. I'll study that and I'll see.
And who would protect those minerals if they are U.S. interests? Would that be Ukrainian
They'll be
forces?
protected. The
European
agreement will protect them.
U.S.
The
forces?
agreement, yeah, we're signing an agreement. You know?
Right, but what if Russia tries to invade or there's Russian aggression in response?
I just told you, I don't think that's going to happen. And if that were going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal. If I thought that was going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal.
Some people may wonder
You
why.
know, they ought to focus on CNN on survival, not asking me these ridiculous questions. Focus on surviving because CNN's got such low ratings. I don't think they're going to survive. Let's go. Please, go.
I already mentioned Poland. Poland was under Russian control for decades after the Second World War. When I was a kid, I looked at the United States not only as a most powerful country, richest country in the world, the country that has great music, great movies, great muscle cars, but also as a force for good. And now I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal? That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred, and I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. but you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Hey, I will respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the president of the United States' words mattered more than the president of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied it, our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2015.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
That's exactly
but-
right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, yeah, the situation the same. The people are been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him. Me, like a new president in 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel. We signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring it into this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know that.
bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that.
That's exactly
Remember
what
this.
you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very
You will
good.
feel influenced.
We're going to feel very
I'm
good and
telling
very
you, You
strong.
will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the very
bad position,
beginning
and
of
he
the
happens
war.
to be right
From
about
the
it.
very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position.
I
You don't
was-
have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards.
cards.
Right now, you don't,
I'm very
you're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think
You're gambling with World War III.
What do you
You're
think about?
gambling with
What do you
World
think
War III. And
Yeah.
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country,
I'm
that's
with
back
all
to you,
respect to your
far
country.
more than a lot of people said
Very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can.
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country's
Can I-
in big
can I-
trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. you have a damn good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid president, $350 billion.
You
We
voted
gave
for
you
your president.
military equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about West?
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I
Again,
tell you.
just say thank you.
I
Accept-
said a lot of
accept
times
that there-
thank you
accept
to
that-
American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's
I
very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are
I
dying.
can tell you
You're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't please,
you're running
Mr.
low
President.
on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're
I
saying
said-
you don't want a
But I
ceasefire.
said to you.
I want a
With
ceasefire
guarantees.
because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
doesn't
with
matter for
me.
you what.
That
what
wasn't
is-
with me.
It
That was
wasn't
with
you.
a guy named Biden who was not a smart person.
This
That
is
was
your-
with,
this
that
is
was with
your
Obama.
president. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
What
She's
if
asking, what if
Putin
Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now?
But they have
Okay?
broken
What if they
ceasefire.
broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me.
But look,
Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that. All right, we'll see what we can do about putting it together. Thanks. We'll see. I don't
Guys, come on, let's do it.
Well, the sausage making of American diplomacy typically takes place behind the scenes. It's typically just adjacent to the Oval Office in the cabinet room where you have the tough conversations and then the united front or the tea leaves are delivered in front of cameras in the Oval. And we are left to discern whether it was a good or a bad meeting. But you just saw live the sausage making of American diplomacy in the Oval Office before all of our eyes. It is 5 years, 7 months, and 4 days from the first time these two men spoke. And during that very first conversation, Zelenskyy said he had a lot to learn from President Trump. He, in fact, said, "You are a great teacher for us, and you can teach us how to drain the swamp." I think it's fair to say we are a long way from that moment many years ago. Some context that I think you all need to know of things that have been going on behind the scenes that kind of have led to this acrimony. There have been several flashpoints in this relationship, one of which was February 12th, where President Trump accused Zelenskyy of oversleeping for a meeting with the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. He felt that was disrespectful. Not only that, Secretary of State Marco Rubio had this to say: Trump is very upset with Zelenskyy. Biden was very upset with Zelenskyy. I am very upset with Zelenskyy. Zelenskyy told Vance and me he is okay with the deal, but then later publicly said he rejected the deal. You know, Steve, as I look at all of this and we saw kind of this transpire into what was a caustic back and forth, the impetus for it, I think, was very important.
Right.
They were having a nice conversation, and then you had JD Vance speak, and then you had Zelenskyy talk about what kind of diplomacy are you talking about, and take on this accusatory tone towards the vice president, from which the vice president said, you should be coming in here being very thankful. We have given you $183 billion, and you come to the Oval Office with this.
Kayleigh, you're exactly right to set it up the way you did. We have never seen anything like that before, where it actually played out in real time. Usually, you know, they'll come out and they'll say, okay, we had a disagreement, but we actually got to see the disagreement. If I had to guess, you know, for Mr. Zelenskyy at one point essentially blamed Trump, Obama, and Biden as well. You guys never stopped him when you had the chance. Okay, that's not smart to do. Hey, Donald Trump, you had the chance and you blew it, essentially, is what he was doing. For a while, it kind of seemed to me like JD Vance and Trump were playing good cop, bad cop, where Trump was being the diplomat, and then JD Vance said, you know, say thank you. And eventually, Mr. Zelenskyy wound up arguing a lot and then groveling. Ultimately, this could be a lot like what we saw just a week ago, where Donald Trump referred to him as a dictator and a third-rate comedian and stuff like that, to get a better deal for the United States. For him to have an argument on television in front of the whole world, suddenly the whole world's going like, okay, Trump won that. Zelensky's going to have to do something.
I think that's such a good point, Emily. You know, the American public, we've seen, you know, kind of question, we're giving $183 billion in aid, and there are questions that come with that kind of money going to Ukraine. And, you know, you would think that Zelenskyy coming in would be very grateful in front of cameras, certainly, for that. And instead, you know, we had this moment where he challenged the vice president. And the context I mentioned, I do want to bring it up just so our viewers can see. This is from Axios, and this describes that meeting that I think kind of is a huge part of the souring of this relationship. February 12th, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent met Zelenskyy in Kyiv to offer a proposal that would give the U.S. access to Ukrainian mineral rights in return for de facto U.S. protection. Trump later told reporters Zelenskyy was rude and delayed his meeting with Bessent because he slept in. That's not the posture that I think a power would ordinarily take when given aid. I mentioned I was in the meeting with the Iraqi prime minister. And what you saw was a very mutual respect relationship between someone who'd received U.S. taxpayer aid and someone who was grateful for it and wanted to work with our country.
And I think the presence of cameras casts an entire dimension on this that is very important in the realm of diplomacy. So what we saw there is a president that has been exhausted by Putin's continued invasions of his country, right? But he is ascribing the failure to deter on the current administration with 2 administrations past. And I have only compassion for him and his people. And I can't imagine the exhaustion and rage that he must feel. But Vice President Vance was absolutely apt when saying, you should not be litigating this in front of the American media. And the point of diplomacy, which President Zelenskyy was asking about, which was essentially like, look, you guys, I don't trust your deal right now because we've gone through deals and it hasn't worked. Now, President and Vice President Vance are saying, look, there is a new sheriff in town. So you have to believe us. And I think under the auspices of, and you are currently in the American Oval Office in front of the American President, Commander-in-Chief, and his Vice President, and in front of the American media. And Vice President Vance pointing out, you have gone on a media, public press, public relations tour that has subverted a lot of our policies. So I think what we're seeing is someone who is totally at their wits' end, Zelenskyy, but taking it out in ways that is deeply damaging to the fragility and the importance of diplomacy with the current administration that has done everything it can to support and will continue to, while under the value system of America first. So I was deeply disappointed by this exchange just because it seems so stressful. And this also goes to show, for all of those headlines that crow about how easy it is for President Trump's job, it is not. It is an incredibly hard position for a commander-in-chief to inherit what happened before them and make good decisions. So bravo, President Trump and Vice President Vance.
Yeah, and I mean, there is a fact that is inescapable, Tommy, and it is that Putin went in under Obama's watch and Putin went in under Biden's watch. And there was a 4-year hiatus, and that happened to be the 4 years of President Trump. So when President Trump says he might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, but he hasn't broken them with me, there's facts to prove that.
And I think President Trump was rightfully insulted by the way President Zelenskyy has been acting for years now. Don't bite the hand that feeds you is essentially what I got out of all of that. Trump repeatedly said, you don't have the cards, you don't have the cards. And it was like a father swatting down their toddler who repeatedly has their hand out asking for allowance but doesn't want to mow the lawn. What he's saying is, we want to help you, but the way that you have paraded yourself in front of media for years, Hollywood audiences, in the fanfare on Vogue covers, the way you have this sense of entitlement as you ask us for money and guarantees. Now I'm trying to give you a deal that's good for my people and good for your people, and you're disrespectful. And so whereas you didn't like that exchange, I loved it because that told me America is back. This is the president of the United States of America, and he's going to act like it. And repeatedly through there, it seemed as though Zelenskyy had his arms crossed like a toddler. You're not going to act like that with President Trump. Maybe a President Biden, but not with this administration and not with this country. I loved watching this play out in front of us.
You know, Jerry, we as, as Americans, as voters, we only get tea leaves that we pick up on. We get reporting from sources inside meetings. And one item that I picked up on that I couldn't get out of my mind was when Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Biden would call and yell at Zelenskyy. And he referenced reporting that the Biden administration would give this aid. And then Zelenskyy would go out publicly and say, the Americans aren't giving me X, Y, or Z. There was this attitude of ungratefulness that it seems like also proliferated during the Biden years, according to the tea leaves referenced by Rubio.
You know, and because of that, I agree with Tommy here. I'm glad to see this made public. I think it's fantastic. Now you understand what we're up against. Now you know what we see in the public arena, in the private arena, usually. You know, we're getting a lot of pushback. That's the way it's working. I think a lot of Americans, particularly on the left, think we can get done whatever we have enough money, we have enough macho, we have what. No, it's hard. It takes a lot. And you're seeing that right now. And you saw the president, put him in his place. Tommy, you said something before we even came to air about Zelenskyy not wearing a suit.
Yeah.
He's just not showing any respect, period.
Yeah, Steve, I guess I would call it the $1 million question, but that seems like small ball. So I'm going to call it the $183 billion question. That's the amount of U.S. aid given to Ukraine. Is whether this rare earth minerals deal gets signed. At the top of this, which we didn't show you, President Trump said it'd be signed at 1 p.m. Well, that is in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And it's hard to imagine these two guys sitting down and inking a deal in 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Because during the bilateral press conference where both sides are together, they're going, okay, okay, you asked 2 questions, you asked 2 questions. Those 2 questions on each side would be, so when the cameras went away, who wanted to strangle each other? Because obviously it did not go well. Remember, ultimately, Zelenskyy wanted this meeting because he wanted security guarantees from the United States of America. He's not going to get them because Trump has even said, I'm not going to talk about that until a peace deal is signed. And it's probably not going to be a peace deal today. It's going to be a stuff deal for rare earth and stuff like that. If I was Donald Trump, every time I have a world leader that I got a problem with in the Oval Office, bring in the cameras. You know what? Let's just go ahead and talk about it. Forget about the smoke-filled rooms. I think after decades of being told what happened, and then years later, we find out, well, it wasn't exactly like this. There's no disputing what we just saw. And not only is that good television, as Donald Trump said, but it's really good for the American people to see what is going on behind the scenes.
Right. And Emily, in just a few moments here, the role of Vice President JD Vance is interesting. He went on the world stage. He challenged Europe. He challenged them on free speech. He got a ton of criticism in the so-called mainstream media, but he got a lot of accolades from a lot of Americans saying he's saying it how it is. And JD Vance was the touchstone once again, kind of saying it like it is and challenging Zelenskyy.
And he's a veteran. Yeah. So this is someone who's coming into the Oval Office as the vice president and sitting, across from a current president who, with his attire and with his demeanor, seeks to remind everyone that he's currently in war. And he's sitting across from someone who knows exactly what that was like. So I think that too, we've talked about this, that his relationship with the Senate, his relationship with the Hill, but his relationship as well in that front, I think does well to say you have to remember who you're talking to this time around, sir, meaning this administration.
Yeah. Well, the last 4 years, the presidential press conference was rare. The questions and the freewheeling with President Biden was rare. But you just saw American diplomacy play out in a way I don't think we have seen, certainly in modern history. And now the overarching question as we approach the 1 p.m. hour, just a few seconds from now, is the rare earth mineral actually going to be signed? We will wait and see. And tonight on Special Report, now you can't miss it. Bret Baier sitting down with Ukrainian President Zelenskyy after that very tense exchange between him and President Trump. Do not miss it. The news continues.
And now I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal? That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America. And for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world. And I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred. And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side is exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
I will respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the president of the United States' words mattered more than the president of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014.
2014 and
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
That's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, yeah, the situation the same. That people are been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him. Me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed with him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing cards.
Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you can...
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
You haven't been alone. We gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid president, $350 billion. We gave you military equipment, and you men are brave, but they had to use our military. If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times.
Except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's
I
very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards. You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you'd take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me. That wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that. All right. We'll see what we can do about putting it together. Thanks.
I need the back.
We'll see. I don't know.
Guys, come on.
Mr. President, is there no deal? Mr. President, is the deal off? President Zelenskyy, can you tell us what happened?
valkoiselta talolta äsken saimme tietää, että mineraalissopimuksen allekirjoittaminen peruttiin kokonaan ja Zelenskyy juuri astui autoonsa. Sadat toimittajat
Did you sign the minerals deal? Did you sign the minerals deal?
Why were you so disrespectful to the president?
Did you sign the deal? He's on the phone.
Bill McGurn joins us, Wall Street Journal, Karl Rove, Kimberly Strassel, and thank you all for getting up and chipping in on our coverage right here. I tell you, I was in Hanoi, Vietnam, when Trump and Mike Pompeo were meeting with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. And Dan, I know you remember that all too well also, when they were behind closed doors, no cameras, and they came out and they said, boom, the meeting's over. So that was then. And now this is today. Karl, what was your read on what you watched on TV for the past 30 minutes?
Well, this is why diplomacy should never be conducted in public. I'm confident, and we now know that, for example, in World War II, there were heated disagreements between Franklin Roosevelt, Joseph Stalin, and Winston Churchill, but we didn't see them broadcast on TV. And what we saw were statements that came out of these big conferences in which the Allies made an effort to move forward together. It is hard to get. It is going to be incredibly hard to walk back from the kind of animosity that we saw in that room today, and to walk back some of those statements. It could have been done if it had not been, if cameras had not been running. But the only winner out of today is Vladimir Putin. This is a mistake to have it broadcast. It was a mistake for Zelenskyy to get his dander up, and it was a mistake for the president and the vice president to be so public in their comments. This was not the moment that should have been televised. They should have had those conversations out of camera sight, and I'm confident that then they would have been able to find a way to move forward. But it's really hard when you've had the kind of coverage of this moment that we've now had.
Yeah, and we're looking live at the White House, the West Wing entrance exit there to see if we see any activity. Bill McGurn, want to bring you in. Here was more from that exchange. President Trump on a deal or no deal. Listen.
I don't know what happened, but he didn't break it with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that. We'll see what we can do about putting.
Bill, in addition to the fiery exchange, you can also make the case there was a lot of body language that was happening in that room with the world leaders as well. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought the body language is awful. You have world leaders pointing at each other and correcting each other. I agree with Karl. This is all stuff that can be in the back room. They made different substantive points. Look, they went into it. It was supposed to be to announce a deal that is a good deal, the mineral deal. It's not everything, but it's a step forward. And instead, we got constant correction of each other and 2-on-1 against Zelenskyy. I think President Zelenskyy misread Donald Trump, especially in a public setting. I think if it behind closed doors, Trump could have said, "You're not grateful. It's really a mistake," and it would have gone over better. But there's a president fighting for his country, in front of cameras. He knows Putin's watching it. His own countrymen are watching it. So when that happens, leaders get trapped by their environment. And I think that's what they were. Look, I agree, like Zelenskyy would be wise to look more grateful. But put it this way, were the Afghans grateful for what we did? Could Biden get away with saying, well, we abandoned them because they weren't grateful? No, the interests are much larger than that. So I thought it was very unfortunate. And I don't know how they walk this back.
Well, we'll see. There's still time. It's not even 1:30 in the afternoon. And being on Trump time, things can move pretty quickly. Kimberly, jump on in here. Where do you guess things go next?
Well, I think the thing that stood out to me the most here was just how far apart they clearly are on so many issues. And that really, if you listen to the back talk and the crosstalk, those points spilled out that we were supposed to be meeting here on a rare earths mineral deal. But in the course of that conversation, we found out that Zelenskyy clearly isn't even sold on the notion of a ceasefire, that there are huge discussions still going on about what kind of security guarantees, if any, there would be there, that Putin seems to be far more open to this, which should give everyone pause than the Ukrainian counterpart. One other thing that stuck out to me is I wonder a little bit, too, a mistake here, and there were a lot of mistakes made on both sides, but one of the mistakes here might have been Zelenskyy conducting this in English. I think it's heroic he speaks in English, but language is very, very complicated, and I think that there was also some words there that were used that simply riled Trump and Vance in a way that I don't think Zelenskyy meant them to. For instance, at one point he said, you know, we've been going this alone. I think what he meant is that those on the battlefield fighting, the soldiers themselves, have been only Ukrainians, whereas Trump and Vance took that to suggest he was not grateful for the economic assistance and weapons that Americans have sent. So that was also at play, and another reason why none of this should have happened in public.
Yeah, Dan, I want to go back to this moment. It appears to be the moment that Zelenskyy attempts sort of a reset to go back to what he said was the beginning. Listen here. More from the exchange.
Let's start from the beginning. Sure. First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know that.
bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
Dan, there were moments where this felt like it went from bad to worse.
Yeah, and Kim makes a really good point about the language. I've been in a lot of these sorts of diplomatic discussions, and the idea that you have a translator there gives both sides to think a little bit before they speak and dial down, if necessary, the tension in the room. And it also allows both presidents to convey what they like with a lot of nuance. I think that was a challenge in this case for President Zelenskyy, and it was hard for him maybe to express what he really wanted to express in English. And when it comes to gratitude, he could have dialed it down by saying, look, a couple of years ago, I addressed the U.S. Congress and thanked the U.S. Congress and the American people. And since then, I've been very grateful. But I think the fact that he had to speak in English, not his native language, presented additional problems. And no one really took the opportunity to dial things down. It just got more heated.
Dan, is he your guest right now? They have this press conference or no?
I think they got some work to do, because if they were to have a press conference right now, it would just be a follow-up on the last 10 minutes that we saw, and that probably wouldn't be of any additional help to the cause.
It's official. Foreign aid has been doged after John Roberts of the Supreme Court ruled that Trump has the right to freeze the money. USAID staff cleared out their desks. today, and Musk says we've just saved $60 billion. Doge found a $75 million contract for inclusive justice in Colombia, $40 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment, another $40 million for female empowerment in Colombia. Pretty sure this money's for cocaine. But don't worry, we're also going to give the Caribbean $3 million for being gay and lesbian. You're gay, and we want you to stay that way. And we still had money left over for terrorists.
Mr. Roman, are you aware that we are sending $40 million a week to the Taliban?
Yes, sir.
Can you name other instances of foreign aid going to terrorist organizations?
We have assisted al-Shabaab in Somalia. There's been instances of the Hamzi network in Sudan, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Kataib al-Hezbollah, Hayat Tahrir al-Shams in Syria. Dozens of terror organizations have received indirect assistance from U.S. foreign aid.
Are we funding terrorists so we have something to do with our missiles? The media doesn't want anything cut unless it's a circumcision.
Trump talked about all the stuff Doge is cutting and all the stuff they're not cutting, and it got weird.
20 million here, 30 million here for, you know, a little educational course on something, circumcision, right? Circumcision.
That long, rambling response actually reminds me of circumcision because somebody really should have cut that head off.
Doge has their brains so scrambled. Now The View is begging for deportations.
The guy was not born in this country, who was born under apartheid in South Africa, so has that mentality going on. He was pro-apartheid, as I understand it. Now I'm getting some flack because I said that Musk was pro-apartheid. I don't really know for sure if he was. He grew up at that time when apartheid was in full bloom before the great Nelson Mandela fixed that. He was around at that time, but maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. He might have been a young guy, too.
Might have been.
So don't be suing me, okay, Elon? They're allowed to say any lie they want, but we have to be really strict. That's why this show's important.
Yeah,
it is. Did Joy Behar just say go back to Africa? I don't think you can say that, can you? And I guess we finally found out where Democrats stand on illegal immigration. Deport Musk and keep MS-13. They let millions of illegal Chinese, Muslims, and Venezuelans into America, but Musk, who's been a citizen for 22 years, he's got to go. So what if he's going to colonize Mars and build their electric cars? Go back to Africa. All of a sudden, saving taxpayers' money is treason.
The prices at the grocery store are going up because democracy is being taken away.
We are in the middle of a totalitarian fascist coup in this country.
But if we were being honest, there should be a breaking news banner on CNN and MSNBC all day long.
Yes.
We are in dictatorship right now.
Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, Democrats must be insane to think the dictator hoax is going to work after losing every swing state with it. And now they think Big Balls is going to peek into their tax returns.
If we had a president AOC, a liberal Democrat president, who brought in a bunch of her friends and they brought their laptops and they started taking all the data and doing whatever they wanted to, Republicans would be in the streets as well they should. This is no way to run a government. This is a dangerous precedent that's being set.
Well, they did that. Where was Van Jones when Trump's tax returns got leaked? That little liberal, leaky little John, remember, stole 400,000 of Americans' tax returns. 400,000. Leaked them to the press, and Maddow waved it in the air like it was a righteous act. And Leaky Little John was just a contractor. Elon's a presidential appointee who hasn't stolen or leaked a thing. Democrats are worried about security because they're the ones who can't be trusted with it. Hillary had a home server in her basement with secrets in it. And when she got caught, acid washed it. Elon's not just about cutting the fat. Listen, hundreds of federal workers are being promoted daily every time we encounter excellence. Democrats are squealing Trump's going to cut Medicaid, but look what we found here. California was caught using Medicaid to pay for art and music lessons. Oregon was caught using Medicaid for cooking classes, air conditioners, and mini fridges. DOGE is saving us all money, and Democrats are fundraising to stop it.
I just left a massive citizen meeting that I organized on about 24 hours, 48 hours notice. Hundreds of people standing up with one voice to say we are not going to allow for the billionaires to take over our government. And I need your help right now to stand up and help me build the kind of political operation all across the country that we need to fight back against this hateful, destructive agenda from Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Now things are starting to get dangerous. Police just arrested a trans man named Lucy.
On February 7th, police reported there was an arson attempt, plus acts of vandalism, including graffiti on some of the vehicles deemed offensive and hateful in nature.
February 24th, Monday evening, we were working surveillance where we then encountered the defendant.
The suspect, identified as 40-year-old Lucy Grace Nelson, was stopped before committing what would have been considered a Class 3 felony. Nelson was arrested on multiple charges, including felony mischief, but the most concerning one to police was the use of explosives or incendiary devices.
The devices that were discovered had potential for serious damage.
The left spends all day calling Elon a fascist who should go back to Africa, and all of a sudden, Trantifa is planning explosives at Tesla dealerships. The threat level is so high that Musk has U.S. Marshals augmenting his private security. I guess Democrats only like billionaires who add to the debt. Elon's going to push hard no matter what it is. He's a pioneer. His brain's wired to break things and create things and not be like everybody else. So when Trump and Elon see a wall, they don't stop. They go right through it.
Isn't it like mind-blowing that this has happened? I mean, it just... And what, by the way, why do we still know nothing about that guy in Butler? What's going on? Cash is going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, there you go.
By the way, yeah. Woo.
If Democrats are worried what we're finding in government, the graft and their kickbacks, wait until we start sniffing around Butler. Wait until Doge, Cash, and Bondi pull the files on Butler, PA. The FBI closed that investigation real quick. No toxicology, body cremated, electronics blackholed, and the Crooks family hires an expensive attorney. With what money? Pinch yourself. Go ahead, do it. We're living through history. No one's been able to cut waste in Washington. Nixon, Reagan, Clinton, Obama, they all tried, couldn't do it until now.
We are having great success in slimming down our government. It's been really very successful, and some took payouts and buyouts, and others took other things, and some people we're finding out don't even exist. We're finding that we have a lot of people that don't exist that people thought that did.
We're even digitizing the retirement cave.
The administration came to us with a challenge, something that we've never done before. Process a retiree end to end digitally without printing anything to paper. The deadline, in a week.
The first time I went to the mine, the picture I had in my mind was something from the X-Files. Some retirees have a lot of paper, a lot more than others, and that there were a couple we encountered that actually had pallets of communication.
We were asked, how long would it take to do this completely digitally? We gasped and said, 7 months, maybe 12 months.
We got it done in record time within 2 days without printing one piece of paper.
Things are changing fast. And there's a lot of emotion around that. No one says this was going to be easy. Voters said when they put Trump back in the White House, they wanted him to come in and deliver, quote, complete overhaul. This is going to make a lot of people very uncomfortable. Trump's been shot. Elon, the second most targeted man in the world. The Democrats are desperate, and their bases are telling them to go harder. Ironically, the voice of reason in a moment like this is Pretty Boy Floyd.
We had Trump before. We didn't appreciate him. But I think Trump is a great president. Actually, he's the best president. In my eyes, he's the best president we ever had. Great businessman. Trump has done an amazing job. And a lot of people around America are upset. But no matter who goes in the White House, we're always upset.
Right.
And I think Trump is the man for the job.
Ukraine is at the top of everyone's mind right now, and particularly the deal that you were the point person on as you went over to Kyiv to actually first present it. We all watched what happened in the Oval Office. I guess the simple question is, can this deal be saved?
Well, David, the question is which deal? The peace deal or the economic deal? Because clearly it's very difficult to do an economic deal with a leader who doesn't want to do a peace deal. And I will tell you, I was sitting 3 away from President Trump and President Zelensky, and this has to be one of the great diplomatic own goals in history.
If Mr. Zelensky called back right now and said, "I'm sorry, I want to put it back together," what would he have to do?
I don't know. Mr. Zelensky and his team were taken out of the Oval, and they kept coming back with that message, and then they left the White House, and it's going to take a lot of repair. And David, the real tragedy here, maybe things can be repaired with the administration, but I don't know how the American people are going to feel. And more importantly, the economic deal, the meeting today, the real purpose was to show that there was no daylight between the Americans and the Ukrainians. So President Trump's idea was to show that with the economic deals, to show that we're more intertwined, and that would be a symbol to the Ukrainian people, to Russian leadership, and to the American people. And President Zelensky blew that up today. I'm not sure what he was thinking.
As I say, you were the point person really for the administration on the economic deal. We all thought on the outside we were very close. In fact, I think many of us thought there'd be a signing today, that we'd have some form of economic deal today. Were we as close as those of us on the outside thought? Were you surprised?
Again, I was shocked that President Zelensky would come into the Oval Office, behave like this, speak to the president, speak to the vice president, but more importantly, disrespect the American people like this. I know he's under a great deal of stress. He and I had a very heated exchange in Kyiv. I think the same thing may have happened between him and Vice President Vance and Secretary Rubio in Munich. And, to come in and behave like this was unacceptable. And look, I mean, what better runway did he have that President of France, Emmanuel Macron, in the Oval on Monday? Yesterday, we had a fantastic meeting with Prime Minister Keir Starmer from the UK, and then President Zelensky today. I mean, you could not have asked for a better arc. And he walked in, and I'm not sure what he was thinking.
Fox News alert now. President Trump is on his way to Florida, and he may stop and talk to reporters after one of the most breathtaking moments in Oval Office history. President Trump and Vice President JD Vance getting into an epic shouting match with Ukrainian President Zelensky as they tried to hash out a minerals deal for a peace deal with Russia.
You think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influenced.
We're going to feel very good and very strong. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a
with
ceasefire.
guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what,
that wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins. The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy, and I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave, but you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that.
And indeed it was. President Trump kicking Zelenskyy out of the White House shortly after that, canceling their joint press conference. No rare minerals deal was signed, and the White House staffers, well, they eat the lunch that Trump and Zelenskyy were supposed to dine on. President Trump posting on Truth Social, it is amazing what comes out through emotion, and I have determined that President Zelenskyy is not ready for peace if America is involved, because he feels our involvement gives him a big advantage in negotiations. I don't want advantage. I want peace. He disrespected the United States of America in its cherished Oval Office. He can come back when he is ready for peace. And Zelenskyy will be talking to Brett Baier at 6 p.m. Eastern time tonight, just less than 1 hour from now. Jesse, this feels like one of those moments in history where we will all remember exactly where we were when we watched that go down. Now I'll ask you the question we're left wondering, will they get to a deal?
Hopefully. It's kind of like when you want to propose, so you go to the girlfriend's dad, you go into his house. Can I have your blessing? And he goes, well, do you have any money for a ring? Nope. Do you have a job? Nope. Do you have a house? Nope. And then you start arguing with the dad and he kicks you out of the house and you go back to the girlfriend and the girlfriend's like, well, how did it go? Not good. It did not go very well. Zelenskyy screwed up. 30 minutes before this happened, everything was fine. Everyone was getting along fine. And then a reporter asked Trump about aligning with Russia. Trump says, I'm just aligned with America and I'm aligned with the world. And then Vance jumps in and he says, well, you know, you can talk tough and beat your chest, but that's not going to help us with diplomacy. And then Zelenskyy, out of nowhere, zeroes in on Vance. And he says, you don't know anything about diplomacy. What do you know about diplomacy? You can't negotiate with Putin. He can't be trusted. He violates ceasefires. Well, then what are we all doing here? Why did he fly all the way here to sign this mineral deal if you can't negotiate with Vladimir Putin? What's the whole point of this? We're not going to give Zelenskyy a security pact. It's not in America's interest to have to defend that country with American soldiers if Russia goes back in. The mineral deal is the best security that Zelensky's ever going to get. And if you didn't like the language of the deal, stay in Kiev. Hash it out for another week and then fly here. Don't fly here and get all emotional. We run the world. This is America's world. He's our proxy. This world, this ends when we say it ends. It doesn't end when Zelenskyy, if he wants to go it alone, go it alone. I'm glad we helped him. Russia invaded. We got his back. At first, it was the right thing to do. But now it's not. Now the war's over, and he doesn't recognize it's over. And reality is going to eat this guy alive if he doesn't recognize this. If you were in the room when Roosevelt was telling Churchill to liquidate his colonies, I don't think it was all tea and crumpets. Or if you were Bush yelling at Musharraf when Al-Qaeda was in Pakistan, no. Or or Bibi getting his ear chewed out by Joe Biden. This stuff happens all of the time behind the scenes. We were just lucky enough to have it happen right in front of the cameras.
You know, it was fascinating. Thank you for that, Jesse. Emily, when we were getting live reports from the White House while Zelensky and Trump had finished this meeting, and we were waiting to see what happened next, Jackie Heinrich stepped up to the camera to give us a report and said she had learned that Zelensky was begging to stay but got kicked out. And shortly thereafter, we saw exactly that. We saw Zelensky very quickly after this concluded exiting the White House along with his staff.
Exactly. And to that point, there was a gap in time that was longer in reality than we saw on television because we had to ingest that footage, right? It wasn't live. So there was sort of a significant moment in between what we saw and Zelensky exiting the White House that I think portends the future of this relationship between those two, which is the need for an apology and an acknowledgement of the role the United States is playing. Now, I think what we saw was someone who has for many years bared the brunt, obviously, of Putin's aggression, and his exhaustion and his wit's end and his rage was showing. But for him to ascribe on the current administration's shoulders the utter failures and the invertebrate approach of prior administrations was so wrong. And the most wrong tactic was, in Vice President Vance's words, litigating it in front of the American media. That was not the time or place to have that outburst. And I think all it did was underscore for everyone watching, for the millions watching, how deeply fragile and important diplomacy is, and that it doesn't always look tidy. And for President Trump to sit there and for them to entertain that question, that pushback on, what do you know about diplomacy? And they said, look, there's a new sheriff in town. So I know that your experience with Putin has been such, but let us tell you what our experience has been. For that to be all played out in front of the American media live, and for President Zelensky to have, frankly, his sort of mercurial behavior always played out, always harnessing the American public's sentiment by way of the harnessing of American media is totally inappropriate in the Oval Office of the presidency of someone that you are trying to have on your side. And recall that the UK Defense Secretary who says, well, America needs to have that backstop. You know, we believe in upping all the spending, but we still need America to be the backstop. We don't have to be, actually. And economics is indeed the backstop that we're going to commit to. So here, what happens moving forward is that America needs to stay strong because we are signaling to Putin and China exactly what happens if you come on our turf and disrespect us.
You know, Jessica, a lot will be said about the public nature of this, these fiery exchanges happening in the Oval Office. And the many guests we had immediately following the breaking news, there were some who seriously embraced it and some who thought it's not a good look to have this happen on the global stage in such a public way. Where are you?
I think I could see both sides, I guess, of the public face of it. I think Jesse's right that usually this is hashed out in private, but this is a president who loves doing things in public, and he's a TV guy, and he made for great TV there. And we're going to talk more in the B block about the various reactions to it and how much this ultimately benefits Putin and how he was so excited to see this interaction. And I'm sure that is the case. But the idea that Zelensky, whose people have fought bravely for 3 years against a authoritarian adversary that invaded, that has taken an advantage at every single turn, has been nothing but a patriot, said even just last weekend that he would resign if it meant that they could get into NATO, right? That was after the accusation from President Trump, JD Vance, et cetera, that he was the one who's a dictator, that he was the one that it was Ukraine's fault that all this happens, when we all know, or anyone who's being honest, that it was definitely Putin's fault. And Jesse's right. The moment where Zelensky gets animated is when JD Vance asks him to just take it, to just sit there and go along with the idea that Vladimir Putin wasn't the aggressor in this, or the idea that Vladimir Putin is a diplomatic partner. Vladimir Putin is not a diplomatic partner for anybody. So you had a patriotic world leader defending his people and defending the thousands of lives, tens of thousands of lives that have been lost to all of this.
Neither Stalin, neither's Mao. Sometimes you have to do deals with bad guys.
But
Jessica.
he's not. And America in life has done some deals with some bad guys, but that isn't what's going on here. And Donald Trump revealed himself. I thought the most shocking part was that Trump goes on to say, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt. And people have been saying since the beginning of this, since Donald Trump came on the world stage, that he is aligned with Putin. We saw in Helsinki in 2018 when he stood up there and he sided with Putin over the intelligence agencies. He says, well, Putin told me he didn't do it. He told me he didn't meddle in the election. And then are you comfortable with an American president saying Putin went through a hell of a lot with me? Are they buddies?
I went through a hell of a lot with you, Jessica, with the Russia.
Okay, making a joke of it means that I made a valid point, just for the viewers at home.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
take it to Charlie.
So, obviously the whole thing was pretty amazing. It was great TV. It was pretty shocking. I've never seen anything like it. But one of the reasons it was so shocking and so amazing is because it's the first time we've ever seen an American president stand up and deal with the situation in Ukraine completely from an American perspective, standing up for American interests, American taxpayers' interests, Americans' strategic interests. And we've just never seen it. So it was kind of shocking. And probably the most shocked person was Zelenskyy himself. He couldn't believe it. He'd never dealt with an American official who cared primarily, first and foremost, about Americans and American interests. And so he was completely blown off. And I think that one of the things that's kind of interesting about, and obviously, and you all are exactly right about that. The moment that set him off that set Trump off was when Zelenskyy dialed in into JD Vance, which, by the way, is a really weak move. You go for the vice president,
but he's the one who said it to him.
Okay, but that's who you start your fight with, and then. And this is the thing, I think, Trump knows a lot of people who are not good deal makers. He can deal with them. He can work with them. The idea that you would have a guy that is not only not a good deal maker, he has no idea how few cards he has when he walks into this room. He has no idea how few options, zero options he has. And he walks in here and he's arrogant and he's pushy and he's demanding. And you pile all that up and you're going to piss off Trump. And what we saw there was a pissed off Trump. So you have somebody, and it's been going on for a long time, where you have this person who is bilking the American taxpayers for hundreds of billions of dollars, and most Americans can't really tell you what our interest is over there.
Can I just add to that about the money and all this? Obviously, we have given them a ton of money, but 70% of the aid that we have sent to Ukraine has then been spent back in America. So when he, quote unquote, went and campaigned for the Democrats, that he was visiting a munitions factory that was producing weapons that they could then use. And Europe has been, as a share of GDP, almost doubling our investment.
So I'm not an economist, but the idea that you're going to take hundreds of billions of dollars of Americans' taxpayer dollars and light them on fire in Europe, I don't think that helps anybody. All it does is lead to inflation.
All right, save for the next block because we've got more on this coming up. Fox News alert, President Trump departing the White House just a short time ago. He did take questions from reporters. I believe we have it now. Let's listen.
We had some big news this week, as you know, because Apple is investing $500 billion. Think of that. And that's going to be it's going to be a tremendous investment. I guess the biggest investment anybody's ever made in the country at one time. But they're going to be investing a lot of money, $500 billion. We have many other companies that just announced they're coming in. A lot of it's because of how we're doing. We've done a great turnaround in a little more than 30 days, but the country's really doing well, really doing well. We're respected again all over the world. If you look, we had the Japanese Prime Minister. We had the Prime Minister yesterday of UK, as you know. We had the Prime Minister of India. We have another 20 Prime Ministers and Presidents wanting to come. And very good feeling. I think our country has really turned around. We had a meeting today, as you know, with President Zelenskyy, and I would say it didn't work out exactly great from his standpoint. I think he very much overplayed his hand. We're looking for peace. We're not looking for somebody that's going to sign up a strong power and then not make peace because they feel emboldened, and that's what I saw happening. I'm looking for peace. We're not looking to go into a 10-year war and play games. We want peace. And it was just my impression that if we do that, if we sign up, he's looking for something that I'm not looking for. He's looking to go on and fight. We're looking to end the death. 2,000 people died this week. Soldiers, more than that, but 2,000 approximately people died this week. Young Ukrainians and Russians. And somebody would say, why do you care about Ukraine and Russian soldiers? I care about them. I care about everybody. And we're not doing that. Now, if we don't do anything, he's going to have to make peace, but he's dealing with a very weak set of cards. If we sign, he's dealing with a very strong set of cards, and then he doesn't want to make peace. So that's where we are. It's very simple. I'm not looking to get into anything protracted. I want immediate peace. President Putin is going to want to make, and he wants to end it. And you saw what I saw today. This is a man that wants to get us signed up and keep fighting, and we're not doing that, not for this country. So we're setting a lot of records. Economically, we're setting records, and I think every way we're setting records. One of the best is the right track, wrong track. You saw that. We're on the right track for the first time in over 27 years. People are impressed with that. The other thing is the feeling about our country. The feeling is great. It's up 48% on feeling on business. And that's the record we've never had. There's never been a record where we've ever gone up that much in such a short period of time. So we're doing really well. And I guess some of you are coming with us. And if you are, I hope you're going to have a good flight. What? He's got to say, I want to make peace. He doesn't have to stand there and say about Putin this, Putin that, all negative things. He's got to say, I want to make peace. I don't want to fight a war any longer. His people are dying. He doesn't have the cards, just so you understand it, okay? I don't have to tell you that. Go ahead. I think you know the answer to it. What? Wait. Look, I don't trust or distrust anybody. I just want to get a deal done. And if the deal happens, good. But you can't embolden somebody that does not have the cards. And all of a sudden that person says, oh, well, now I can keep fighting. We're not going to keep fighting. We're going to get the war done or let them go and see what happens. Let them fight it out. I want anybody that's going to make peace. If he's capable of making peace, which he may or may not be, but I want somebody that's going to make peace. Again, he doesn't have the cards. When we sign up, he's got all of the cards. That doesn't mean he can fight. He's got to stop the fighting, stop the death. He's losing hundreds of thousands of soldiers. It's time to stop the death. Say it. Well, he says he wants it now. He wants to come back right now, but I can't do that. They should have an immediate ceasefire. That was the other thing he didn't want to do about ceasefire. A ceasefire could take place immediately. A contract, if you want to end the war, you sign up an agreement. That's going to take a period of time. It takes time. I want it to end immediately. And I think if you had a ceasefire, it would be a ceasefire, a real one, that would end it. But he doesn't want to do that. That's fine. Do a better deal. I want it to end immediately. I want a ceasefire now. He says, oh, I don't want a ceasefire. Well, all of a sudden, he's a big shot because he has the U.S. on his side. Either we're going to end it or let him fight it out. And if he fights it out, it's not going to be pretty. Because without us, He doesn't win. Let me tell you. It doesn't matter what I'm considering. I'm just telling you. You saw what I saw today. That was not a man that wanted to make peace. And I'm only interested if he wants to end the bloodshed. Thank you very much.
Donald Trump is incurring a lot of criticism lately on the Ukrainian war. He's trying to negotiate an end to the war. Remember, there's probably somewhere around 1.5 million dead, wounded, missing, and captured on both sides together. That is the largest casualty figure total since the Battle of Stalingrad. In his art of the deal style, he said some things the last week that got people very angry. He said that Zelenskyy was a dictator and that he had, quote, should have stopped the war and never started it. We know that Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine on February 24th of 2022. So why did Donald Trump say that? Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. Donald Trump is incurring a lot of criticism lately on the Ukrainian war. He's trying to negotiate an end to the war. Remember, there's probably somewhere around 1.5 million dead, wounded, missing, and captured on both sides together. That is the largest casualty rate figure total in Europe since the Battle of Stalingrad in 1942 and 1943. In his art of the deal style, he came in and he said some things the last week that got people very angry. I'll just give you two examples. He said that Zelenskyy was a dictator and that he had, quote, should have stopped the war and never started it. That got people anguish because we know that Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine on February 24th of 2022. So why did Donald Trump say that? Well, of course, he doesn't believe that Zelenskyy started the war because he has campaigned himself on the following narrative. Under George Bush in 2008, Russia invaded Ossetia and Georgia. In 2014, under the Obama administration, they invaded the Donbass and Crimea. On February 24th of 2022, under Joe Biden, they tried to take Kiev. However, of the last four administrations, there was one in which they did not leave their borders to invade another nation. My administration. Why? Because unlike the prior three presidents, I was able to establish deterrence. And how did I do that? I killed Soleimani, I killed Baghdadi, I destroyed ISIS, I got rid of the Wagner. I did a lot of things that put the fear of God into Vladimir Putin. So Trump knows who started this war. So why did he say it? I think, and he's retracted it now. He said, I didn't mean it that way. What he's trying to say is that this war has been going on for 3 years. And the Europeans said they were going to come in this exultation when the Russian attack on Kiev was thwarted. This guy in a T-shirt, ex-comedian, was a rock star. Everybody was going to pour weapons in and save Ukraine. We did more than either any European power or NATO in aggregate. And guess what? It didn't work. 3 years later, 1.5 million casualties later, a quarter of the Ukrainian population gone, 600,000 Russians gone, a new alliance between Russia and China. Trump wants to stop it. And he says to Zelenskyy, don't tell me what I can do and what I can't do. Don't say you have to be in the negotiations. You guys have had 3 years. I'm coming in. We have funded you. So here's what's going to happen. You are a dictator. Now, that is an excessive term, but on the other hand, Zelenskyy has canceled opposition parties, suppressed opposition press, suspended elements of habeas corpus, and suspended elections. Now, some people on the right and left said, well, even Churchill didn't have election for 10 years. Churchill came in, and the first thing he did in 1940 was have a coalition government of enemies, rivals, and friends in the war cabinet. Zelenskyy hasn't done that.
So in some ways, yes, he is an authoritarian. The other thing he's been criticized is he says, we want natural resources and minerals. They said he's a colonialist. He's an imperialist. No, Donald Trump is saying that the United States is very tired of subsidizing and paying for far distant problems when we're running a $37 trillion national debt. This war was on the border of Europe. They said they were going to invest 2% of their GDP as NATO powers in defense. They didn't do it. We have outfunded all of them. And yet we are very distant with an open border ourselves. If we want to be there, we want some compensation. You have valuable minerals, we'll come in and have a concession with you, a business deal. But more importantly, there's a subtext to this. He's also saying, we don't want you in NATO. Europe really doesn't want you in NATO. Russia doesn't want you in NATO, and you're scared to be in NATO yourself. So this is what's going to happen. If you invite American business in to Ukraine to help rebuild it and to profit thereby with natural resources, you're going to have Americans there, and Putin will be less eager to attack you if he understands there's a thriving American concession there. Where are we then? What is the solution? Donald Trump is saying what we all know is going to happen. Number one, they're not going to be in NATO, but guess what? They're going to be better armed and better fighters than any of the 32 countries in NATO. Vladimir Putin knows that. Number two, nobody ever said they were going to get back the Donbass nor Crimea. That's not going to happen. No president said, we're going to give you the military wherewithal to reclaim it. Number three, if we have a negotiated settlement, the critical point will be, can Donald Trump put Putin back where he was before he invaded this time? That was can he go back to February 23rd of 2022? And Trump will tell him, you're not going to be worried about Ukraine. It's not going to be in NATO. You can go tell all of your friends that you institutionalize the acquisition of Crimea and the Donbass. But we would like you to re-enter the family of nations. We would like you to be able to sell and buy things if we drop sanctions. But for us to do that, it would be wise for you to go back and we'll make a Korea-like DMZ. And that is the negotiation that's transpiring right now. If Donald Trump ends this bloodbath, all of this rhetoric and all of this hysteria will cease, and he will be a hero both in Europe and the United States and in Ukraine and Russia. And final note, he was criticized by, how dare you talk to a dictator? Vladimir Putin is a dictator, and he's a violent dictator, and he's a corrupt dictator, and he's an aggressive dictator. But compared to Joseph Stalin, who killed 20 million of his own people, he's an amateur. We had a formal alliance with the Soviet Union because they were the enemy of our enemy, Nazi Germany. Richard Nixon talked to Mao Zedong to try to play him off against the Soviets. Mao Zedong was the greatest mass murderer in history. He killed 70 million people. So there's a long history of realpolitik, of talking to odious dictators if it's in the U.S. interest and it lessens the chance of war. This is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal.
Thank you for watching today's podcast. And for more news like that, subscribe to the Daily Signal. And maybe you can check out my own website at victorhanson.com for podcasts, lectures, ultra series behind a paywall, but more importantly, just daily columns that are accessible and free to everyone. Thank you very much.
Welcome back to Special Report. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Mr. President, thank you for the time today, especially on this day, to continue to do this interview. President Trump said after your meeting that you disrespected him and the vice president and all of America in the Oval Office. Do you think you did? And do you think you owe an apology to President Trump?
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for the invitation for this dialogue, and good evening to all your country, to all Americans. I'm very thankful to Americans for all your support. You did a lot. I'm thankful to President Trump and to Congress bipartisan support. And I was always very thankful from all our people. You helped us a lot from the very beginning during 3 years of full-scale invasion. You helped us to survive. Anyway, we are strategic partners. And even in such tough dialogue, and I think we have to be very honest and we have to be very direct to understand each other, because it's very, for us, very necessary to President Trump. And I'm with all respect that he wants to finish this war, but nobody wants to finish more than we, because we in Ukraine, we are in this war, we are in this battle, and battle for freedom for our lives. So I'm just telling that I think that we have to be on the same side, and I hope that the president on our side together with us, and that is very important to stop Putin. And I heard from President Trump a lot of times that he will stop the war, and I hope he will, and we need to pressure him with Europe, with all the partners. And I think this dialogue had to be a little bit earlier to understand where we are. Like, you know, I don't remember exactly, but like President Reagan said, that peace is not just an absent the war. Yes, we're speaking about just and lasting peace, about freedom, about justice, about human rights. And that's why I said that I think so, that ceasefire, and you know, Putin, he broken 25 times ceasefire during all these years, 10 years.
So I'm not hearing from you, Mr. President, a thought that you owe the president an apology.
No, I respect President and I respect American people. And if, I don't know, if I think that we have to be very open and very honest. And I'm not sure that we did something bad. I think maybe sometimes some things we have to discuss out of media, with all respect to democracy and to a free media. But there are things that where we have to understand the position of Ukraine and Ukrainians. And I think that is the most important thing. Yes, we are partners. You know, we are very close partners. We have to be fair. We have to be very free.
I'm told that you were told multiple times from lawmakers on Capitol Hill and the White House to make today about the minerals deal and the economic deal, and then get it signed and let negotiations play out over security guarantees step by step. Is that true?
I said that we have to sign this document, and we are ready for this. And this will be the first step to security guarantees, but it's not enough. I think so. Maybe I don't know something. I don't know some details. That's why I wanted to share it with the president, my thoughts, and to hear him again, because he has a plan how to stop Putin. And maybe, as I said, maybe it's out of big conversations, but we have to share it. You know, this is so sensitive. You know, just a ceasefire without security guarantees, this is so sensitive for our people. I'm speaking like a president of a people who are in this struggle 3 years, and they just want to hear that America on our side and that America will stay with us, not with Russia, with us. That's it. But I'm sure that it will be. This is the first step to security guarantees. Europeans, we don't need to lose them. They are good allies for the United States. The United States is the most or the biggest donator of support and of peace. But we don't need to lose Europe. And they also want to know next steps. We have to be very open to understand how to stop the war.
Right. But do you think the public spat in the Oval Office in front of the media served Ukrainians well today?
I think this kind of spat is I mean, this this is not good for both sides anyway. And I very open, but I can't, you know, change our Ukrainian attitude to Russia. And I don't want they kill us for us. You know, this is very, very clear that Americans are the best of our friends, Europeans are the best of our friends, and Putin with Russian their enemies. And it doesn't mean that we don't want peace. We just want to recognize the reality, the real situation.
President Trump is convinced that you will never sign a deal with Vladimir Putin. Is he right?
No, I think so. What I think, Ukraine wants peace, and we will have anyway diplomacy. We will have negotiations. I only said that I think so. It's about just and lasting peace. It meant that we have to be very strong at the table of negotiations. And at these negotiations, Ukraine and Russia, like sides of this war, have to be, and the United States and Europe. That's what I said. So we are ready for peace, but we have to be in strong position. What does it mean? Just to know that our army is strong, that our partners with us, and that we have security guarantees. Am I not right?
Leaving the White House today, President Trump said this.
He's looking to go on and fight. He wants to come back right now, but I can't do that.
What do you make of that? Do you want to continue fighting? Do you want peace? And if he had the opportunity to go back to the White House right now, would you do it?
No. First of all, we want peace. That's why I'm in the United States. That's why I visited President Trump. And thanks for the invitation again. The deal on minerals is the first step to security guarantees. It's meant for the peace, closer to peace. That's why I'm here. And we have tough situation. To understand it is to be in Ukraine. You saw it, Brad. You was once. Thank you again. So I think that's very important to understand what's going on. But I respect my soldiers and our people, our civilians who work and support our warriors. I can't say just stop. Nobody will stop because everybody afraid that Putin will come back tomorrow. We want just and lasting peace. It's true. We want security guarantees. We raise this topic about NATO the quickest way, but not all the countries are on this side. I said, okay, if not NATO, nobody is pushing. If not NATO, let's build NATO in Ukraine. That's my position. Europeans are ready to have contingents on our territory, boots on the ground. United States thinks maybe to help, maybe USA backstop, have to be just to guarantee that they are with Europeans. Look at Europe, it's strong. It became stronger, but they also want to have allies like the United States. That's what I said. I just want to understand what the peace. It's not my question, Brad. This is the question from all our people.
You mentioned when I traveled to the front lines with you last year to see the situation, to mark the anniversary of the war. And this is what you told me back then.
Will Ukrainians survive without Congress support? Of course, but not all of us. It will be tragedy for all of us, not only for Ukraine, not only for Ukrainians, for all Europe. Yeah.
So the question today is, can Ukraine win this war or hold off Russia without continued U.S. support?
It will be difficult for us. That's why I'm here. That's why we speak about the future negotiations. It will be difficult without your support, but we can't lose our values, our people. We can't lose our freedom. So a lot of people, Russians came to our territory, you know it. Russians came to our houses, and everybody saw it, video, images, a lot of things. They killed so many people. Just to forget it, just to say that Putin is a great guy? No, without us. We don't want it. That's why we speak about, everybody remembered how it was the first days of the war, how they came. Nobody wants in Ukraine. Yes, of course, nobody will forget it, but nobody wants to have, again, new wave of occupation. That's why when we say, no NATO, what security guarantees can we have? I'm not pushing. We are not pressuring. We're just asking. We're just sharing very clear messages to our friends, to Americans.
Right.
If you stay with us, thank you so much. But let's do the infrastructure of security guarantees. Let's just share with our people. Just with our people that America stay with us. That's great. We count on it. But just to share it and to say it, that's all.
How does the war end? How do you get to a deal? You're at a place right now where there is no deal. How do you get it back on track?
I think that Europe is ready for contingents and to help us with financing of big army, such big as we have now. This is our army is the part of security guarantees. Now we want to find the place for our biggest strategic partner, for the United States, or United States will propose where and how the United States will give us security guarantees, what kind of and what part of volume of security guarantees. And when we will be ready with this, we will come to diplomacy. Yes, with Russians, Europeans, United States, and we. For us, I think this is real way, because with weapon, it's too long, it's not enough. We don't have enough weapon to push them out, and we don't see now, for now, we don't see really big volume of new support from the United States, but with all respect again. So for today, we'll be ready with security guarantee. Really, when I say NATO, it's not about that we are focusing on this word. It's about very understandable infrastructure of security guarantees. And you see that no NATO countries for today, no NATO countries been under attacks.
Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican from South Carolina, he has been a big proponent of you and of Ukraine, said this today after the meeting.
I have never been more proud of the president. I was very proud of JD Vance, standing up for our country. We want to be helpful. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelenskyy again. He either needs to resign and send somebody over that we can do business with, or he needs to change.
So he says you need to consider resigning. Is that on the table?
I don't know if he will be happy after my words. This decision can do only people of Ukraine.
You're not going to step down to do a peace deal.
No, I was always ready. I'm not sure that is a good idea for this such proposals. But anyway, I always said, if United States will support NATO, so I think that it's enough for Ukraine. So I think I did all I had to do. And if somebody is not, happy with me, okay. But between us, yes, Americans vote for American president. Each European country vote for their president, and only Ukraine. With all respect to Lindsey, if I can say Lindsey, we know each other. Yes, and only Ukrainians.
Democrats have had
their president.
Democrats have had the opposite reaction to the Oval Office meeting. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut posted this: "What just happened in the Oval Office was a planned ambush designed to help a brutal Russian dictator and hurt America's security. Trump has become Putin's lapdog, and America's global power is hemorrhaging as America sides with dictators over democracy. What an embarrassment." Do you think the confrontation in the Oval Office today was pre-planned, like Senator Murphy suggests?
I don't know.
You don't know? You think maybe?
I don't know. No. I don't. I don't know about it. I think no. I think it was just a really tough situation because we've been very open, very direct.
What set you off? What made you mad? Because they said your tenor and tone.
It's not about mad. It's not, Brad. You see, how to say, when you are in the United States, and for example, president or vice president or somebody or senators, it doesn't matter, big politicians, yes, when they, for example, say that Ukraine is almost destroyed, that our soldiers run away, that they are not heroes, that Ukraine lost millions of civilians, that his president is dictator, you know? What is the reaction? It's not about me. The reaction is that where is our friendship between Ukraine and the United States? That's it. This is feeling. And that's why I do not want to lose our great partners at the United States. And I just said that it's not the first time. I said it by phone, and we had some other conversations, and we had in Munich meetings, and I said, please, be correct. I want to be very polite. Be correct with this number. When you say about the number, each person is important. When you say about 1 million of losses, we don't have any million of losses. When you speak about the territories, maybe some territories and etc., it's not just territory, it's houses, it's people's lives. You know, their fathers, mother, their relatives, grandfather, they died or during this war. Nobody wants to forgive Putin. It's not funny, you know, or fairy tale. This is real life. That's what I said. And when you said it, a lot of times to my big friends who've been here today in our dialogue, and then they again begin to repeat the same things, I think it's not. That's why I said it's not good way between partners, good partners and friends. That's it. And I think that if journalists asking questions to president, with all respect to vice president, he has his interview.
Mr.
This
President,
is our dialogue.
Shouldn't this dynamic, if you're going to be like this, be behind closed doors? Not
of course. And
so do you regret that? Are you regretting that happened today?
Regretting? Yes, I think it was not good. I think it was not good because we had a lot of different dialogues. I'm always open to media, but there are very sensitive things. I just want to be honest, and I just want our partners to understand the situation correctly. And I want to understand everything correctly. That's about us. Not to lose our friendship.
A couple more things. What are the next steps in your mind? Here we are today.
Yeah.
What are the next steps?
I think so. United States wanted this deal very much. And we've been not against this deal, but we wanted to understand what parts in security guarantees will take this deal and what next steps. Just again, to understand for our people. During the war, what you don't like, even sometimes hate, surprises. It's understandable. Many terrible things this war brought to us. So we don't want any surprises. Yes, that's why we want to be very fair with our partners. And I think this deal, it was prepared by teams. It was not simple during weeks. And now it's ready. I think that they have to sign. The countries have to sign. The ministers have to sign. That's it. I don't know when they will do it. It depends on the American side.
So
exactly.
the minerals deal did not have security guarantees listed in it.
It's a part.
The security guarantees?
This is the part in the infrastructure of security guarantees. Because, for example, President Trump shared that I think so that if we will be there in some productions and etc. in minerals, that Putin will never come on this territory where we are. And I said to him, don't trust Putin. Why? I said, because it's not, we respect and we believe in strongness of the United States. But I said to him that we had more than 20 companies, American companies, big companies on the territory of Ukraine. And we had offices, even on temporary occupied territories. For Putin, it doesn't matter. It's American or European company or Ukraine. It doesn't matter. He just came and occupied it. That's what I said. I think this is a great idea, how to strengthen Ukraine and how to make business between two countries, how to make additional jobs for two countries. But it's not just this will not save us.
I read what the Democratic senator said, that Trump has become Putin's lapdog. Do you agree with that President Trump is too close to Vladimir Putin in your mind?
We spoke about it. And I think today, very openly, President Trump, he said that I want to be in the middle. Otherwise, I will not put these guys at the table.
And is he right?
I want to be very honest. I want really him to be more at our side. I will explain why. Because it's not just that the war began somewhere between our countries. The war began when Russia brought this war to our country, and they're not right. And they are not right. They didn't respect our territorial integrity. They brought the war on our territory to our families. Sorry for repeating, to our houses. And they're not right. And of course, all the Ukrainians want to hear strong position of the United States on our side. from one side, it's understandable. From another side, he wants to find some way of dialogue with Putin. But he always said, as I remember, he always said that peace through strength. And that's why I think that he's strong, United States strong, two parties together in this question, two parties always together against Russia. You're very strong to do strong steps against Putin.
Americans are worried about where the money has gone.
Yeah.
Will there be a very rigorous accounting of where the money has gone? It seems like there is some question about whether there's corruption or sold military equipment.
No, it can't be so. 100 billions we've got during 3 years.
183 from the U.S.
Now, on the paper, in the documents, yes. But we have, in fact, because 67 came like a weapon. It came through the border. It's checked and it's fixed by everybody, and we shared it not once with the American side. And 31.5, it was direct financial support to the budget. Again, it's very open. It's digitalized. It's open, free, and please, if somebody wants to check it again, we are very, very open with this.
Last thing, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Do you think your relationship with Donald Trump, President Trump, after today, can be salvaged?
Can be? Yes, of course, because it's relations more than two presidents. It's the historical relations, strong relations between our people. And that's why I always began with to thank your people from our people. And this is the most important. And of course, thankful to President and of course to Congress, but first of all to your people. Your people help to save our people. People, the first. Human rights, the first. This is very, very important. And we are thankful and sorry for this. I mean, we wanted very much to have only strong relations, and I'm very count that we will have it.
Mr. President, we're honored that you kept this interview. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We have a Fox News alert. President Trump is speaking to reporters right now, saying Zelenskyy overplayed his hand and that Ukrainian president wants to fight, fight, fight. We will bring you that video when we have it. Meanwhile, the media had a field day today. Watch this.
Never in the history of modern diplomacy, war, peace, whatever, have I ever seen anything like
this. Was a tragedy. This doesn't make the American people better off tomorrow.
This is a catastrophe.
The president of the United States is a coward who is Vladimir Putin's puppet.
It seemed as though, Vladimir Putin's work was being done for him.
Trump become a lapdog for a brutal dictator in Moscow.
The propaganda is what's coming out of JD Vance's mouth, and it's Russian propaganda.
Which side of this war is Donald Trump on?
Putin and his cronies are probably popping champagne bottles right now.
So, Sandra, it's kind of odd considering what we've been through over the last couple of years, but given what we saw today, do you think it's the best strategy for Democrats to go back to the playbook of, oh, Trump is a Putin stooge?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work. And the fact that the American public was able to see every bit of this happening in the Oval Office, they'll be able to decide for themselves. And so it behooved the press to cover this fairly and from all sides. Just looking at some of what we're hearing from President Trump as he is departing. And remember, we're going to hear from Zelenskyy a short time from now in that sit down with Brett. It sounds like Trump is making sure that His intentions are known. Some of what we are hearing is what you would expect. We are looking for peace, not a 10-year war. He says Zelenskyy wants to fight, fight, fight. I think that's what people saw him doing in the Oval Office. Trump says the U.S. is not looking to play games. Clearly, when you see that exchange with the President of the United States, he sat down for a deal. He did not come to play games. So the fact that this so publicly played out on the global stage, there are going to be strong opinions on what this means for world leaders to have seen this play out, but certainly for the American public to see this play out and then see the reaction from the media. What if this meeting had taken place and just simply a statement came out, or we learned that Zelenskyy got kicked out? You can only imagine the speculation, but people saw exactly what happened there and they can decide for themselves.
Yeah, I think the diplomatic words are frank. They had a frank discussion. That's all we would have gotten out of it. So, Jesse, like one of the things that I love about this is that beforehand, Zelenskyy met with a bunch of members of Congress to like prep for the meeting. What do you think those phone calls were like when he walked out of the meeting and he called those guys back and he's like, so how did I do?
He used to have to get prepped by Biden officials before getting on the phone with Joe, because he'd get on the phone with Joe and make endless demands and never say thank you. And it drove Joe crazy. And the same thing is happening here. I have a lot of respect for Zelenskyy. He's a brave guy. His people are brave, but he's got no leverage anymore. The only leverage he has are minerals, and he doesn't even know how to use that leverage. He'll never be a NATO member. It's not in our interest for him to be a NATO member. And the fact that he was arguing with the president of the United States and the vice president in front of cameras in the Oval Office showed so much disrespect. And he's like a freshman out there when you think about it. He doesn't really know what's happening. This war just hit him in the face and he's trying to survive. The things the Democrats are saying, Putin puppet, these things are just slogans. What is the Democrat strategy to win the war or end the war? They don't have one, because the Democrat strategy is to make this an endless proxy war that goes on forever, an unwinnable proxy war, World War I trench warfare style, where the Russians gain a half a mile a week and they just run out of ammunition. That's unsustainable. What is the national interest in fighting an unwinnable, endless proxy war, which is the Democrat strategy? No one's ever explained it. I can see the U.S. interest in ending the war. We get mineral rights. Energy and commodity prices go down. We could maybe add to our munitions, which have been spent over the last 3 years. You peel Russia away from China a little bit. I could go on and on. But sometimes, as you and all know, you have to break up to make up. And these things happen. Deals get blown up and they get cobbled back together. I'm sure next week they'll sign something.
Jesse has a point. I mean, what is the Democrat strategy for just ending the war?
Well, you've heard from a lot more Democrats recently that they understand that there could be some concessions, that we're not going to get back to the pre-2014 lines. Even Zelenskyy has talked about him understanding that that might happen. And again, I'll repeat that he said, I will step down for being the leader of this country. His I think a 57% approval rating. People are pretty fond of him. We know that wartime presidents don't have elections. Just putting it out there. But he said, I'll do what I can to make a peace deal. But what they're signaling in this, and what Zelenskyy is signaling with his attitude, is something that the leader of the CDU, won the German elections, Merz, who will become the next chancellor, was talking about, that Europe is on its own with Ukraine now, that they do not feel that they have a partner in the U.S. who's going to be protecting and supporting Ukraine or them going forward, and that Donald Trump has aligned himself more with Vladimir Putin than with the traditional Western world order. That the alliances in the post-World War II world are over, and that he likes Vladimir Putin better. I don't know. I understand you want to make a deal. And by the way, this deal doesn't seem like it had a lot for the Ukrainians. If what he wants is security.
Germany is Russia's biggest customer. All they do is buy energy from Russia. And they didn't give a lot of weaponry to the Ukrainians, not nearly as much as we did. The Germans sat this one out. Same with the French. The British and the Americans did the heavy lifting.
As a percentage of GDP, we rank 17th in terms of how much we've given them. That puts
percentage,
pressure.
shermanage.
No,
it's a lot of money.
Yes, of course. It's
We're richer. It doesn't matter, Jessica. We armed them to the teeth, and they did a hell of a job stopping the Russia war machine. But now it's time to end the war.
It is not just Democrats that are critical of this. Noted Democrat Karl Rove was on earlier talking about it. John Bolton, I get he doesn't like Trump anymore, but this guy is a traditional conservative person who's saying that this is a huge nightmare for the future.
Lindsey
of what
Graham said
happened.
kick him out. Lindsey Graham, who we all know, never saw a war he didn't want to fight, said, Zelenskyy, get out of town, you screwed the pooch.
Or a war that he wanted somebody else to fight. No, but the problem here is that this idea that somehow Trump likes Putin more than Zelenskyy is absurd to me. The idea of this minerals deal hooks the United States deeply into the interests of Ukraine. Emily, in terms of the Democrat strategy for messaging this, are they winning? Are they losing?
Well, I personally think they are not winning. And that they never are. Look, I'll say this. At the end of the day, what we are looking at is peace through strength. Earlier in the meeting, President Trump said that he is continuing to send arms. But as he quoted, he said, but not too much more aid would be forthcoming. We're not looking forward to it. We're looking forward to getting the war finished so we can do other things. So respectfully as well to people like Christiane Amanpour, who says she's never seen anything like this. It's because she's never had the honor of being in the room behind closed doors without the press there when this is what diplomacy looks like, right? Taking out root canals and coming to agreements with the different alignments and different values is not always pretty. And that's confirmed by Secretary Pompeo, who earlier on our network shared, look, he's seen this all the time. He's just never seen it before in front of the cameras. And for people pundits who come on air and say they call President Trump a coward and a puppet, well, is that what Biden was then in October of 2022, who on his call with Zelenskyy, as the Wall Street Journal and CNN reported, yelled at him, told him he wasn't thanking him enough. He didn't feel gratitude. He was simply wanting to take more. Is that what they called Biden back then? At the end of the day, what we are seeing is a second-term president, President Trump, who is in the art of the deal negotiating what that looks like, which is not the World War II Axis allied nations. It's far more complicated than that, and it involves acquiescing in part to achieve mutually beneficial agreements. That means we don't simply ice out Russia and China because obviously that's not doable anymore. The embeddedness of all of these countries economically, intellectually, in so many property, in so many different ways, you cannot simply excise a tumor and think it's the end of the day. So in my opinion, for those in the Democrat Party who are crowing about what do they want, a long-term, an endless war? Do we want another Afghanistan? We left our blood and treasure there on the field. There are still French cranes in Iraq. So for me, this is the goal for peace. This is the objective and the end result to peace. And as President Trump said, I don't want an advantage. I want peace. And I wish the Democrat Party would listen to our commander in chief and know that this is what that looks like.
It is truly extraordinary to think about. Every single advancement Putin has made has been made under Democrat leadership. And now they're accusing Trump of being in bed with Putin.
The president has kicked Zelenskyy out of the White House. His delegation right now is telling him that he's got to go home. The president felt disrespected. The lunch that they were supposed to have is sitting right outside the hallway, and the press staffers are going to be eating that lunch.
Mr. President. Mr. President, is the deal off? President Zelenskyy, can you tell us what happened?
Did you sign the minerals deal?
As usual, the Babylon Bee perfectly summed up today's Zelenskyy Oval Office performance, saying Zelenskyy tries bold new strategy of insulting the people he's begging for money from. Well, come on, Zelensky's super talented. He's a diplomatic genius, in fact. On the Ukraine deal, his snotty behavior and eye-rolling took a done deal on rare earth to a no deal on scorched earth.
During the war,
Everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
I'm
Yeah,
very
you're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
What do you think
You're gambling with
What do you
World
think
War III. And
Yeah.
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country.
Now, Zelensky's supercilious air, constantly speaking over the president, was simply dumb on every level. The one he had to impress today was Donald Trump, and he failed that test miserably. As for Trump's approach, he told Zelensky he didn't want to hear something, and it was called the truth.
Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid
thank you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment.
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
All true. Now, Zelensky plays warrior in his costume, but he doesn't realize his act is wearing very thin. And his banker, us, well, we're out of money.
The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position.
Now, today was the day that the pro-Ukraine war hawk crowd lost their cause. Look, if you've lost Lindsey Graham.
I have never been more proud of the president. I was very proud of JD Vance, standing up for our country. We want to be helpful. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelensky again.
Do you think President Zelensky needs to resign to resume these peace talks?
He either needs to resign and send somebody over that we can do business with, or he needs to change.
Now, Kinzinger, Cheney, Vindman, the whole crowd, their hero, the man who suspended elections in his own country, who basically did away with free expression, who banned thousands of Orthodox churches, came to town with an impudent, hectoring approach, expecting, I guess, to be treated like he was at Harvard's Kennedy School or maybe at the Oscars. Now, think about how other European leaders handled their visits to the White House. Leaders who also have some pretty profound differences with the Trump administration.
With this gentleman on my right, and we look forward to keeping that going for a long period of time. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
They were gracious because they weren't morons. But any leader, especially a leader who's received what, about $250 billion, who's counting, in aid, in arms, and humanitarian aid from the United States, enters the White House and then disrespects the president, well, then you can bet that the 77 million Americans who voted for Donald Trump will not support any further engagement. Zelensky was like an annoying gnat. He never shut up in camouflage. But by about dinner time on the East Coast, Volodymyr Zelensky had a slight attitude adjustment. On set with Bret Baier, there was still no apology for his rude behavior, but...
So I'm not hearing from you, Mr. President, a thought that you owe the president an apology.
No, I respect President and I respect American people. And if, I don't know, if I think that we have to be very open and very honest. And I'm not sure that we did something bad.
Well, he ended up saying, well, he thinks the relationship can be salvaged. He had 2 or 3 chances to say he was sorry. It can be salvaged, and, you know, he is sorry if there was a misunderstanding. He finally got that out of him. That's all well and good. But the man is still not living in reality. We fund and have funded the lion's share of this war, and we're not funding it any longer, period. Trump is driving the negotiations here, and so Zelensky needs to lose the attitude.
Do you think the public spat in the Oval Office in front of the media served Ukrainians well today?
I think this kind of spat is I mean this we have. I mean, this is not good for both sides anyway, and I'm very open, but I can't, change our Ukrainian attitude to Russia, and I don't want they kill us for us. This is very, very clear that Americans are the best of our friends, Europeans are the best of our friends, and Putin with Russian. Their enemies. And it doesn't mean that we don't want peace. We just want to recognize the reality, the real situation.
But look, I think the spat in public was actually refreshing. Now, all these diplomats, all these globalists, the same people who failed America in negotiations and meetings, Iraq, Afghanistan, throughout the Middle East, they love having it all play out behind closed doors. That way, there's no accountability when they screw up. But it was very important for America to see Zelensky's intransigence today.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on. I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long.
He knows the show. And sunlight truly is the best disinfectant. And right now, Zelensky and his enablers are the biggest obstacles toward peace.
We're not looking for somebody that's going to sign up as strong power and then not make peace because they feel emboldened, and that's what I saw happening. I'm looking for peace. We're not looking to go into a 10-year war and play games. We want peace. And it was just my impression that if we do that, if we sign up, he's looking for something that I'm not looking for. He's looking to go on and fight, fight, fight. We're looking to end the death.
I get it. I don't get it. They're clapping because Kill Me just left. Let's welcome tonight's guest. His sharp razors make up for his dull commentary. Host of the David Angelo Show on YouTube and founder of Western Razor Company.
Two credits.
David Angelo. She's well respected for getting Republicans elected. GOP strategist Erin McGuire. She's proof you don't need a diploma to put libs in a coma. Political media personality Emily Wilson. And she became a big star by watching men spar. Host of Outkick the Morning, Charlie Arnold. All right. Now, before we get to some news stories, let's do this.
Greg's Leftovers.
Yeah, it's Leftovers, where I read the jokes we didn't use this week. And as always, it's my first time reading them. So if they suck, we'll slather Joe Mackey in barbecue sauce and feed him to J.B. Pritzker. On a flight to Italy, a couple was forced to sit beside a dead passenger. Big deal. I sleep next to one every night, said one woman. All right. Former VP nominee Tim Walz is now doing stand-up comedy. Kamala dropped by to support him because she heard there was an 8-drink minimum. Attorney General Pam Bondi accused the FBI of hiding thousands of Epstein documents. The FBI put them in a place no one would look. Joy Behar's back fat. Two Denver strip clubs were ordered to pay nearly $14 million for wage theft. Not only that, all 14 million must be in the form of crumpled 20s. But industry experts say it's the first time that strippers were the ones left stiffed. Yeah, I thought about that one too. In Maine, a tractor trailer carrying frozen curly fries caught fire on the highway. Crap, now I need a new tractor trailer, said one man. Dylan Mulvaney is coming out with a book about his transformation from a guy to a guy who says he's a chick. It's called Moby Dickless. MSNBC host Nicole Wallace said Joy Reid's ouster, well, it was like losing a limb. We go to Joey Jones for comment.
Actually, Nicole, I strongly disagree. Watching Joy Reid's show is worse than losing a limb.
He would know.
He would.
Researchers say belly fat can help stave off cognitive decline. So that's how Michael Moore can remember he has a penis. Don Lemon told Megyn Kelly to go F herself after seeing her reaction to Joy Reid's firing. He would have said more, but he had to clear the dishes from her table. Academy Awards are this weekend. The subject matter of the Best Picture nominees include a transgender cartel leader, a transgender pope, and a sex worker. Just add a petting zoo and it would sound just like my birthday. Family fun. According to People 100 years of age or older, the secret to longevity is staying busy. That and not crossing Hillary Clinton. Travis Kelce didn't propose to Taylor Swift on their recent romantic getaway. I guess that means neither got a ring. Sports humor. Parents in Maryland are outraged at a new bill that would make condoms available in school vending machines. I get it. The last thing you want is teachers getting pregnant. Starbucks is laying off more than 1,000 workers. Bad news for anyone looking to start a second career. JetBlue announced they're offering a new incentive to help travelers safeguard their vacations if they encounter heavy rain. Yeah, it's called an umbrella. Tulsi Gabbard announced 100 employees who used obscene sex chat rooms at work will be fired. And in a related story, guess who just cleared his browser history? All right. To the monologues. Washington Post owner Jeff Bezos has declared a new direction for the newspaper's opinion pages. In a memo, he writes, "We are going to be writing every day in support of and defense of two pillars, personal liberties and free markets." Personal liberties and free markets? What is he, some kind of Nazi? Bezos added, "Freedom is ethical. It minimizes coercion. It drives creativity, invention, and prosperity." Ugh! Sounds pretty good, though. I'm starting to rethink my negative views on steroid use. Now, as you can imagine, the legacy media is all aflutter because apparently if you're for freedom, you must also be for Trump. Check out these bozos.
The question is he taking the free out of the free press?
Clearly, he's signaling that he's going to use these kinds of made-up words to say, "I'm with Trump."
Is throwing up his hands and kissing the ring of the President of the United States, who is behaving himself as an incipient authoritarian.
Most of us, when we saw this, we just said, what the hell? It's like something that we've never heard. I mean, it's obviously opinion pages can go their own direction, but to say we don't publish opposing viewpoints seems shocking at best.
You know what is shocking? That he still has a job. It's not what he said, you bozo. And now David Shipley, the paper's own opinion editor, quit in protest. It's weird. You'd think the media would embrace the idea of freedom, but they aren't. Why is that? Why are they against so many things that make sense, like cutting waste, deporting pedophiles, and giving Justin Trudeau a massive wedgie? It's because Trump is for those things, which to the left makes them more toxic than Brian Stelter's boxers after Taco Tuesday. True, if Trump found a cure for cancer, the media would call it an attack on cellular democracy. So why is Trump so hard to deal with? That the media has now come out against freedoms. Well, his personal goals align with the country's. That's what happens when you're a patriot. His own personal success is intertwined with ours. If the country doesn't do well, he doesn't do well. That's why when his critics say, ooh, Trump is just out for himself, we say, so what? He can only win if we win. And the media has no way to combat this. So they're left with railing against personal liberties, just like they did during COVID. But they're also opposed to freedom because it keeps them from total compliance. They prefer coercion, which is the only thing that keeps their incompetence protected. And how dare Bezos introduce priorities? The legacy media abandoned that concept years ago. Gone were the obvious concerns: crime, immigration, inflation. What did they replace it with? Trans rights, climate activism, agenda-driven issues that only fed their egos. And the result, a story on drag queens replaces a story on veterans. The media reimagined priorities to reflect their disconnected view of the world. Suddenly, crime was less important than the rights of criminals. Children were less important than the non-binary activists teaching them. The border was given less attention than environmental justice. In other words, the stuff that matters suddenly didn't matter, which coincidentally is what outfits like CNN call their business model. And it worked great. Just ask Joy Reid. Look, there are a lot of ways for the media to distort reality by emphasizing one thing while ignoring another, or by plain old lying. Whatever the method, it will always collapse when what the media tells us doesn't jibe with what our eyes can see and our ears can hear. It's a lesson the Washington Post is learning the hard way, because literally and figuratively, the American people just aren't buying it. So yeah, maybe what Bezos is doing reflects what Trump wants, but that's only because what the president wants is what everyone wants. A media that isn't full of that doesn't lie, that doesn't manipulate, and a media that reflects the real world instead of their lonely preoccupations. Fat chance. I'm pretty sure that ship has sailed right into an orange-colored iceberg called Trump. David, I like this new look you're sporting. You're like a Santa Fe mailman.
That's right. Thank you. I appreciate it. You know, chase down all those dogs.
Yes, exactly. So what do you think about the changes at the Washington Post? Is Trump making the media great again?
I don't think so. There's a long way to go to get there.
Are you enjoying your water?
No, I asked for vodka. Where's it? This crowd hates me. Okay. Here's the thing. Jeff Bezos owns Whole Foods.
Right.
So when I hear him say he's in support of free markets, that makes me feel good about shoplifting there. You know? Just walk out with a rotisserie chicken every now and then. But no, the media at Washington Post, I think he realized that as one of the richest men in the world, it didn't make business sense to pay a bunch of propagandists to usher in the communist revolution.
Yes. Finally dawned on him.
Yeah, he was like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm going to be first against the wall here.
Yes, exactly.
Why does this crowd hate me?
You know, David, it's not just the crowd. We brought in some of your family members to talk about you. And is Bezos moving to the right, or is he just kissing the ring, as whatever that dude was saying?
No, I don't think he's moving to the right. I think he's moving towards sanity and towards the center. Let's remember that this is not anything new. One, I think editorial boards are the way of the past. We don't need a bunch of disconnected people telling us who we should vote for president. You can share your opinion. I'm totally here for that. But this is just all nonsense anyways. But remember, during the 2020 cycle, all of these left-wing talking heads now are talking about, oh, he's suppressing the press and freedom. When Michael Bloomberg was running for president of the United States, he told his publication, Bloomberg, to not cover the other Democrats in the primary negatively.
Right.
So we want to talk about freedom of the press and manipulation. There's just one example of a mountain of where this has happened. So you know what? If you want to move toward the center and start having people read your publication again, this is a good start for that.
All right. Emily? I love how on CNN the people were accusing him of using made-up words like personal liberty. I didn't know that was made up.
They were like freedom.
Yeah, freedom.
All these made up words like freedom. And I'm like, yeah, I guess maybe you guys don't use those words too often. So it might be a new word for you.
Yeah.
It's funny. I really don't believe them when they're like, oh, they're just scared of Trump. It's like, no, I disagree. I think they were scared of the last administration, which is why they didn't publish these things that were going more towards being pro just America and common sense in general. But it's funny because like when I think of like Washington Post and all these things, I'm like, yeah, how are we going to live without like the history of the racism of birds?
Yes.
Those are like real articles they've been putting out for 4 years.
It would be the secret racist history of birds. You know, it's funny though, because if he had actually said that the number one priority would be resisting Trump, they would have gone crazy with joy.
Yeah, they would have loved it.
Yeah.
But I don't think the American people would have loved it anymore.
That is true. All right, it's Friday, Charlie, your last day in that seat.
Well, for this week.
Yes, well, you didn't get the news.
No, I haven't gotten it yet. Don't break it on air. Tell me afterwards.
So is this a harbinger? Is that the right word?
Yes.
A harbinger?
Well, you're gonna have to explain that word to me. You're like, is that the word? And I don't know.
Is it like a foreshadowing of things to come?
A foreboding.
Foreboding? I don't know what that is. I'm against boating.
This crowd,
this crowd loves this show so much, they're in rapt silence, David.
They're in awe.
It's true. They don't want to miss a line. They don't want to miss a line. Thank you for.
They don't want to. Yeah.
Keep the audio track clean. No laughs.
Is this a foreboding of more of what's to come?
Yes, thank you.
Well, the answer is yes, because I think we've seen a very distinct trend. I mean, let's be honest, everybody, let's take a look at Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
I mean, they are all, it's not just a mental and emotional transformation. I mean, just look at these guys, like they're getting jacked.
Yes,
right?
Literally steroidal.
When you look at Jeff Bezos from 2013 when he purchased the Washington Post to now, like he went from Kevin Spacey to Vin Diesel, like soy boy dork to like Jack Stud, whose fiance's cleavage was the most talked about thing at the inauguration.
Yeah, you know what he is? I said this before. Jeff Bezos is like a 13-year-old with $1 billion.
A lot more than $1 billion.
Yeah, $100 billion. He's like, I'm going to get muscles.
And
I'm going to get a woman with big boobs. and I'm going to go to space. That's exactly what I would say.
Well, but also it has to be said, healthier body, healthier mind. I don't think it's a coincidence that now he's starting to make these moves, and we can't just call it a fluke, Aaron. I know you say he's becoming more to the center, but he attended Trump's inauguration, donated to the inaugural fund. I do think that Jeff Bezos is understanding that conservative values maybe are the centrist values of years ago, right? But now it's considered you are conservative. So no, I think he's waking up, and I think it's smart. He's trying to preserve his audience and save his business.
All right.
And my source tonight is the Secretary of State who is in that room today, Marco Rubio. Thank you so much, Secretary Rubio, for being here. We just heard from President Zelenskyy. He said he does not think that he owes President Trump an apology for what happened inside the Oval Office today. Do you feel otherwise?
I do, because you guys don't see, you guys only saw the end. You saw what happened today. You don't see all the things that led up to this. So let me explain. The president's been very clear. He campaigned on this. He thinks this war should have never started. He believes, and I agree, that had he been president, it never would have happened. Now here we are. He's trying to bring an end to this conflict. We've explained very clearly what our plan is here, which is we want to get the Russians to a negotiating table. We want to explore whether peace is possible. They understand this. They also understand that this agreement that was supposed to be signed today was supposed to be an agreement that binds America economically to Ukraine, which to me, as I've explained, and I think the president alluded to today, is a security guarantee in its own way, because we're involved. It's now us. It's our interests. That was all explained. That was all understood. And nonetheless, for the last 10 days, in every engagement we've had with the Ukrainians, there's been complications in getting that point across, including the public statements that President Zelenskyy has made. But they insisted on coming to D.C. This agreement could have been signed 5 days ago, but they insisted on coming to Washington. And there was should have been a very clear understanding. Don't come here and create a such scenario where you're going to start lecturing us about how diplomacy isn't going to work. President Zelenskyy took it in that direction, and it ended in a predictable outcome as a result. It's unfortunate. That wasn't supposed to be this way, but that's the path he chose. And I think, frankly, sends his country backwards in regards to achieving peace, which is what President Trump wants at the end of the day, is for this war to end. He's been as consistent as anyone can be about what his objective is here.
But what specifically do you want to see President Zelenskyy apologize for?
Well, apologize for turning this thing into the fiasco for him that it became. There was no need for him to go in there and become antagonistic. Look, this thing went off the rails. You were there, I believe. It went off the rails when he said, let me ask you a question to the vice president. What kind of diplomacy are you talking about? Well, this is a serious thing. I mean, thousands of people have been killed, thousands. And he talks about all these horrible things that have happened to prisoners of war and children, all true, all bad. This is what we're dealing with here. It needs to come to an end. We are trying to bring it to an end. The way you bring it to an end is you get Russia to the table to talk. And he understands that attacking Putin, no matter how anyone may feel about him personally, forcing the president into a position where you're trying to goad him into attacking Putin, calling him names, maximalist demands about Russia having to pay for the reconstruction, all the sorts of things that you talk about in a negotiation. Well, when you start talking about that aggressively, and the president's a deal maker, he's made deals his entire life, you're not going to get people to the table. And so you start to perceive that maybe Zelenskyy doesn't want a peace deal. He says he does, but maybe he doesn't. And that active, open undermining of efforts to bring about peace is deeply frustrating for everyone who's been involved in communications with them leading up to today. And I think he should apologize for wasting our time for a meeting that was going to end the way it did.
You yourself have said previously that Putin cannot be trusted in negotiations. That was the point that President Zelenskyy was ultimately making during that conversation, is that there cannot be an agreement without security guarantees, because he was talking about all the ceasefire agreements before, or agreements that Putin has just blown past. I mean, do you still feel that way, that Putin cannot be trusted in these negotiations?
Well, I was there yesterday when the president said in front of the media that our approach is going to be trust but verify. President Trump's made deals his entire life. He's not going to get suckered into some deal that's not a real deal. We all understand this. We understand it on our end for certain. And so the goal here is to get to a place where we have to explore whether peace is possible. I've said this repeatedly. I don't know. I think it is, based on what they've said so far, but we have to explore that. How else is this war going to end? I ask people, what is the European plan to end this war? I can tell you what one foreign minister told me, and I'm not going to say who it was, but I can tell you what one of them told me, and that is that the war goes on for another year. And at that point, Russia will feel so weakened that they'll beg for a peace. That's another year of killing, another year of dying, another year of destruction. And by the way, not a very realistic plan in my point of view. So if there's a chance of peace, even if it's a 1% chance, that needs to be explored. And that's what President Trump is trying to do here.
President Trump said just when he was leaving the White House after that meeting that he doesn't think President Zelenskyy wants peace. But isn't that why the Ukrainian leader was in the Oval Office for that meeting today?
Well, he was in the Oval Office to sign a minerals rights deal. That's what he was in the Oval Office to sign today. But again, when you have comments that deliberately appear to be after having discussed this repeatedly, deliberately appear to be geared towards making the argument that peace is not possible. Again, he turns to the vice president. What kind of diplomacy are you talking about? Almost as if to say, these people, you can't deal with them. You can't have any negotiations with Putin because he can't be trusted, and you're just wasting your time on negotiations. Well, he's directly, basically undermining everything the president has told him he's trying to do. Look, there's no need for that. You start to suspect, does he really want an end to this war? Does he just think that, we have to do whatever he says and give him anything he wants without any end game? That was the Biden strategy. We were funding a stalemate. We were funding a meat grinder. And unfortunately, for the Ukrainians, the Russians have more meat to grind, and they don't care about human life. We've seen it, human waves, the North Koreans, etc. And so this is a very complex thing. It's very delicate. It's very costly. It's very bloody. It needs to be brought to an end, but it isn't going to be brought to an end with public pronouncements and maximalist demands in the public, but in real diplomacy. The vice president was right.
When you say they don't care about life, are you talking about the Russians or the Ukrainians?
Well, the Russians, I mean, they're conscripting by the hundreds of thousands. They brought in North Korean troops that were slaughtered in Kursk, and they keep going because they got more people. That's the other fact. Look, and it's, again, we go back to the same point. I'm not going to fall into this trap of the who's bad and who's evil. People can make those conclusions. People have seen how this narrative has played out and where we are today and how this all started and so forth. The point now is it has to end. And the way it ends is you get people to a negotiating table, and the president, who's the ultimate deal maker, knows you don't get people to a negotiating table when you're calling them names and you're accusing them of things, because at the end of the day, this is not a political campaign. Okay, this is high stakes international diplomacy and an effort to bring about an end to a very, very dangerous war.
But you yourself, sir, have said before that you believe Putin is a war criminal, that is a widely accepted fact. You've called him a butcher. And you said that as a Secretary of State, you do believe it's important for someone with such global influence as you have to speak with that kind of moral clarity.
Yeah, and at this moment, as Secretary of State, my job working for the president is to deliver peace, to end this conflict and end this war. Ultimately, that is the job of the State Department. The State Department doesn't fight wars, it ends them. It tries to end them. And that's usually, by the way, celebrated. I mean, throughout history, I've watched presidents that bring about an end to wars and conflicts, and people celebrate that. They applaud it. I think we should be very proud and happy that we have a president whose prime objective is not to get into wars, but to prevent wars and to get out of wars. That is a very noble, laudable goal. Everyone should be applauding it, and he should be given the space to do that, not undermined by demands that he call Putin names or that we say things that impede the ability to conduct real diplomacy, as the vice president said today.
To follow up on what you just said a moment ago, are you saying that you have doubts that President Zelenskyy wants this war to come to an end?
What I have doubts about is whether he's willing to say and do the things that we need in order to get a negotiation. Again, this has been going on for 10 days. And, to see things in the press saying we're not coordinating with the Ukrainians, that's absolutely false. Over the last 10 days, the Ukrainians have met with the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of State, the Vice President of the United States, had a phone call with President Trump, and he was in the Oval Office today. I've talked to the foreign minister of Ukraine 3 times in the last 10 days. The argument that we're not engaging, but yet you keep reading these press accounts about, oh, well, they're leaving us out. We're not involved. We're not engaged. None of these things are true, and it continues. So all that led up to today in a deep sense of frustration. And my hope is that this all can be reset and maturity can kick in and some pragmatism, because this war tonight, people will die in Ukraine. Tonight, people will die in this conflict. We're trying to bring an end to this conflict, which is unsustainable. It's an unsustainable, bloody war that has to come to an end. And right now, the only leader in the world that can even have a chance of bringing about an end to this is named President Donald Trump. And we need to give him the opportunity to try and do that. And when you see efforts to impede it, when you tell someone, don't say, let's not talk about these things, let's not go in this direction, because it makes it harder for us to engage, and they insist on doing it anyways, you start to wonder. I don't like to impugn people's motives, but you start to wonder what's behind it. So look, again, let's